Training's over for today. It's getting late. Everyone head home, Mu Yue said softly. It was already 7 in the evening and dark outside. Bye, Mu Yue-sensei, Obito called, energetic as ever. Bye, Mu Yue-sensei, Shisui replied, more reserved. Shisui, I won't be going back with you today. Rin and I have something to do, so you can head home alone, Obito told him. Since they were planning a surprise for Shisui, they couldn't go together. All right, then I'll go back alone. Shisui nodded, emotionless on the surface. After saying goodbye to everyone, he set off by himself. The moon on October 19th was full, and under its light, his shadow stretched longer, running alongside the trees and making the darkness feel a little less empty. Just like always, Shisui thought as he replayed the day, nothing out of the ordinary. Was a birthday really something worth celebrating? For a ninja, wouldn't mastering a powerful jutsu be a more meaningful milestone? He wondered whether birthdays mattered that much. Leaving the south border forest and entering the main district, the streets grew busier. Even in wartime, the fighting had not reached this part of the village. The main district remained lively, shops still lit, and people out on the streets. Be good, don't cry. Mommy will buy you a toy for your birthday. The crying child brightened at his mother's promise. Daddy, I want that. Another child pleaded toward a food stall. You just finished dinner. But I really want it. All right, one piece. Parents handled it in different ways. Some gave in, some distracted their children, and some threatened fantastical punishments. If you eat that, the legendary Uchiha Madara will take you away tonight. Shisui felt a flicker of amusement hearing that. Had their ancestor really become such a bogeyman? Curious about the smell, he bought a fried meat patty and tried it. It tasted ordinary, nothing like the tempura Mu Yue made, yet he finished it so as not to waste food. Closer to the Uchiha compound, the street quieted. Approaching home, he felt a small relief that the day was almost done. He hadn't told Mu Yue his birthday. How could Mu Yue possibly know? Still, a tiny part of him had hoped the mysterious, capable Mu Yue-sensei might somehow know. Shisui mentally scolded himself. He would never have had such expectations if it were Obito. Obito would certainly have run up to Mu Yue and announced, "My friend's birthday is coming. Learn from your grandfather Uchiha Kagami and grow into a strong, brave shinobi who inherits the will of fire," his uncle's words echoed in his head. He was only 6, an orphan, and he reminded himself to stop daydreaming. First, become stronger, then practice the breathing technique for another 2 hours. In the ninja world, power speaks. Without it, words mean little. The house looked pitch black from the outside, which was normal. No one was home. But as soon as he stepped inside, something felt off. He quietly drew a kunai from his pouch, adjusted his breathing, and narrowed his eyes, scanning the room. Suddenly, the lights snapped on and bright electric lamps filled the space. "Happy birthday, Shisui!" Startled, Shisui's ready kunai clattered to the floor. Mu Yue and the others stood there. Obito, Rin, Metkai, all smiling. "Happy birthday, Shisui," Mu Yue repeated gently. "I wanted it to be a surprise, but I guess it ended up being more of a shock." He looked apologetic. Look at that face." Obito laughed at Shisui's wide-eyed bewilderment. "I should have had a camera." "Happy birthday, Shisui. Your youth is always on the move," Metkai said, giving him an enthusiastic thumbs up. Shisui's eyes took in the decorations, the cake, the small bustle of celebration. Joy swelled in him, chasing away the disappointment he'd felt on the walk home. Despite not telling Mu Yue, the teacher somehow knew his birthday and had gathered everyone for this surprise. "Mu Yue-sensei, how did you know it was my birthday?" Shisui asked, his lips curving into an unbidden smile. He wanted to ask a day, O's and other things, but the words stuck. "I don't know. Mu Yue-sensei told us," Obito said matter-of-factly. "It's the wisdom of adults," Mu Yue answered with a small, mysterious smile. Of course, Shisui's record was on file. Gratitude swelled in Shisui's chest. If he hadn't passed a child celebrating a birthday earlier, he might never have realized how much he had wanted this. Mu Yue had somehow found out, invited everyone, decorated the room, and had even apparently learned to make ninja tools. Thank you, Mu Yue-sensei, everyone," Shisui managed, every word coming from the heart. Even a simple happy birthday from Mu Yue would have meant a lot. This was more than he dared hope for. "Look at the cake. We picked it together. It isn't as big as the one we bought from Mu Yue-sensei before, but it's still nice, Obito said as he lifted the lid. Shisui, here's my birthday gift to you. Keep training hard and we'll grow strong together. Metkai presented a green jumpsuit, one just like his own. Guy, thank you, Shisui said. He smiled, deciding to keep the outfit as a memento rather than wear it. It felt odd to wear Guy's signature suit. This is the silver kunai I won first place with in the youth ninjutsu competition. I couldn't think of anything else, so I'm giving you this, Obito said, hesitating as he handed over the prized weapon. Shisui was touched. Obito, thank you. It's meaningful because you gave it. Maybe you should keep it since it's commemorative? No way. That's not how gifts work. I'm giving it to you. Take it, Obito insisted, pushing it into Shisui's hands. Rin handed over a hurriedly made homemade gift. It looked rushed, but the thought behind it warmed Shisui's heart. Thank you all, Shisui said again, taking a steadying breath. He had never expected this. Hold on, Shisui, you haven't even opened my gift yet, Mu Yue said with a laugh, handing him a rectangular box. Open it. I hope you like it. Shisui didn't hesitate. Inside was neither a regular kunai nor a full sword, more like a short blade. It was longer than a standard kunai, about 30 centimeters, but too short to be called a sword. Plain in appearance, it didn't immediately look special. Then Shisui noticed Mu Yue's hands. They weren't wrapped in bandages now, but his normally fair, slender hands bore many small scars, as though he'd been at work forging or otherwise laboring. Mu Yue had mentioned learning to make ninja tools. Now the gift and the teacher's hands clicked together in Shisui's mind. Mu Yue hadn't just bought something. He'd learned to forge a weapon and made this one himself for Shisui. In that moment, the modest short blade became the most precious thing in the world to Shisui, far more meaningful than Obito's first-place kunai. Shisui felt undeserving. He and Mu Yue hadn't known each other long, not even a year. He wasn't the only student, and yet Mu Yue, despite a busy teaching schedule, had taken the time to learn this craft and make a blade, even enough to cut his hands, just for him. Don't judge it by how it looks, Mu Yue said, smiling. When I forged it, I got the shop to mix in a little chakra metal so it conducts chakra better than ordinary weapons. Chakra metal isn't the only thing that can conduct chakra, Mu Yue explained, but it does help. Blades with more chakra metal tend to keep their sharpness longer. He would have liked to use more, but the sudden request and cost limited how much he could. The materials were expensive. The pieces alone cost hundreds of thousands of ryo. So don't expect fancy lunches and dinners for a while, he joked. Hundreds of thousands of ryo? Metkai gaped at the unassuming blade in disbelief. Shisui cradled the short blade in both hands and examined it closely. 2 characters, T and C, were engraved on either side of the blade. Gratitude flooded him so deeply he felt a sting behind his eyes, rare for someone who carried the Uchiha name and the will of fire. He looked at Mu Yue's injured hands again and tried to express himself. Mu Yue-sensei, you worked so hard. You did all this for me, He didn't know how to finish. Faced with such devoted care, what could he possibly give in return? Mu Yue placed a hand on Shisui's head and smiled warmly. Shisui, understand this. I'm your teacher, and you're my student. That's everything. At those words, Shisui couldn't hold back. He hugged Mu Yue, and tears came, tears of joy and gratitude. Mu Yue-sensei, I will live up to your expectations, he choked out. The 3 other students watched, moved. Obito wondered what kind of gift Mu Yue might give him one day. Rin thought silently how good Mu Yue was as a teacher. Metkai gave another enthusiastic thumbs up at the youthful scene. Seeing the message pop up from the system, Mu Yue's smile grew even warmer. Disciple Uchiha Shisui's trust level increased. Current trust level, 4. You gifted your disciple a self-made ninja tool of decent quality. Your disciple was extremely grateful, triggering a supercritical reward. You received lightning breathing, perfect grade, and a pair of black frame glasses. Disciple Uchiha Shisui's emotions spiked so intensely that his 6 paths bloodline activated and his Sharingan awakened. His strength increased, and you received Byakugan. Disciple Uchiha Shisui's chakra plus 200. Master Disciple return, chakra plus 800. Just as Mu Yue expected, the extreme emotion produced an unprecedented burst, yielding a skill above the proficient level and an accompanying pair of glasses whose purpose was currently unknown. Shisui's enhancement reward was a little odd this time. He awakened his Sharingan, but the system also granted him a pair of Byakugan. Fortunately, the Byakugan provided by the system could be controlled. The eyes would not change appearance when not activated. On closer consideration, there was no real contradiction. Both Sharingan and Byakugan were, at their core, bloodlines left behind by the Otsutsuki. The Master-Disciple return reward for reaching Trust Level 4 was particularly generous. Shisui's chakra had risen from awakening his Sharingan, and when transferred to Mu Yue, it was quadrupled, hence the plus 800. Mu Yue reflected that Shisui's newfound mental strength would accelerate his natural chakra growth, which, in turn, would boost Mu Yue's own chakra gains. The rewards this time were truly maximized. Mu Yue could only think that his efforts had not been in vain. The trust increase also unlocked a new entry on the Master-Disciple panel. Disciple Uchiha Shisui has obtained an optional life mission. Life mission, Uchiha and Konoha. Main objective, resolve the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha, allowing the Uchiha to integrate into Konoha. Mission progress, 0. Mission reward, determined by completion rate and strength growth during the mission period. Settlements will be issued for every 10% progress increase. Note 1. The mission automatically fails if the Uchiha clan's population drops too low. Note 2. Life missions are extremely difficult. Once confirmed, you can only proceed to the next life mission after completing the current one. Please choose carefully. Note 3. Greater difficulty yields higher rewards. Mu Yue studied the mission details. If the story followed the original timeline, this mission would be all but impossible. After all, the Uchiha were ultimately annihilated. But the annihilation had multiple causes. Obito's Ninetales incident left the Uchiha distrusted and isolated. That isolation pushed some within the clan toward rebellion, and Danzo, ever coveting the Sharingan, would seize any chance to manipulate events. Mu Yue thought for a moment and accepted the mission. Even if he had not taken it for Shisui, he had intended to deal with Obito's case anyway, prevent Obito from turning dark, and the Uchiha might never slide into a clan annihilation crisis. In Mu Yue's assessment, the mission's difficulty was moderate, not trivial, but not hopeless. If the mission had been something like, bring world peace, he would have declined. That would be far too vast for a first life mission. Later, during the birthday celebration, Obito noticed Shisui's eyes had turned vivid blood red, each eye marked by a spinning tomoe. He envied Shisui. The child had not only gotten a great birthday gift, but had awakened the Uchiha's Sharingan. If Obito had had that power, he wouldn't have lost to Metkai so many times. He thought, half-jokingly, he could have spared himself a lot of trouble. Shisui, still buzzing from excitement, hadn't paid much attention to his own eyes until Obito pointed them out. "Is this the power of the Sharingan?" Shisui asked, astonished. The world had snapped astonishingly clear to him. He could even trace the flight paths of insects. "For now, don't display your Sharingan in front of others," Mu Yue said quietly. Awakening the eyes and gaining strength was undeniably good, but Shisui was only 6 years old. If word of his awakening spread, the consequences would be serious. Uchiha elders like Fugaku would certainly take notice, probably a net benefit, yielding more resources for Shisui. The real risk lay outside the clan. Hiruzen Sarutobi would likely take a kindly, educational approach, teaching the will of fire and allegiance to the village. Danzo, however, was another matter. Given his paranoia about the Uchiha, Danzo would either try to tightly control Shisui and turn him into Konoha's weapon, or set his agents to watch him obsessively to preempt the rise of another Uchiha Madara. The cost of that attention would be disproportionate to the benefits. Mu Yue chose discretion, keep the Sharingan hidden for now. "Why? Isn't awakening your eyes a good thing?" Obito asked. If he'd awakened his Sharingan, he'd want to use it all the time. It would be a waste not to. "I'll explain the specifics later. It's related to the conflict between the Uchiha and the village," Mu Yue replied. "Understood, Mu Yue-sensei," Shisui said, trusting his teacher completely. If Mu Yue told him not to show the Sharingan, he wouldn't tell anyone, not even when his uncle came by. "First things first. Blow out the candles and make a wish. Today's your birthday. That's the main thing," Mu Yue said with a gentle smile. Shisui stood before the cake, closed his eyes, and thought of a wish. Rationally, he knew wishes didn't magically come true, but today felt special, and ceremony felt right. If possible, he thought quietly, let this life continue. May the village, the clan, and sensei all become better. Then he opened his eyes and blew out the 6 candles. What did you wish for? Obito asked, curious. You can't ask that. You know if you say it out loud, it won't come true, Rin answered with a soft smile. After the wishes came the cake. There was no cake fight this time. Everyone ate happily and chatted. How did you suddenly awaken your Sharingan, Shisui? Obito asked, eager to learn from him. Shisui considered the sensation. I don't know. I felt a special chakra surge through my body, and then my eyes awakened, he said slowly, unsure how to describe it. If you keep training, you'll be able to awaken yours too, Mu Yue said, between bites of cake. Awakening a normal Sharingan wasn't the hard part. What made things dangerous was the Mangekyo Sharingan. Without Hashirama cells or an upgrade to an eternal Mangekyo, relying on it too much could ruin a user. Happy moments, as always, passed quickly. Night deepened without them noticing. After they helped Shisui tidy the house, it was time to leave. Before Mu Yue departed, Shisui produced a sum of money, 1 million ryo, and offered it to Mu Yue to cover supplies for crafting ninja tools. Mu Yue had mentioned the high cost of materials, and Shisui wanted to help. Mu Yue smiled and politely refused. For a sensei, a disciple's growth is the best reward. If that short blade can help you gain an advantage in battle in the future, I will be very happy. With that, he bid them farewell and left. He had gained many rewards tonight and was eager to test his newly acquired skills. Become stronger, Shisui murmured, watching Mu Yue's figure recede, the teacher's words echoing in his mind. Chapter 143, New Ability for Perfect Breathing. Mu Yue tested his Byakugan first. With a single thought, he activated it, and the world in his vision changed instantly. Although he looked straight ahead, everything behind him was also visible, the Byakugan's most basic function, a full 360-degree field of view. He could see incredibly far, too. A bug chewing a leaf on a tree 500 meters away was crystal clear. By focusing slightly, his sight could penetrate tree after tree, all the way to the visible horizon, the Byakugan's X-ray vision, which let him see through other people's chakra. Mu Yue examined his own body with the Byakugan. Under its X-ray clarity, he could make out every chakra pathway and every chakra point. Ordinary ninja could only release ninjutsu through hands, feet, or mouth, but with the Byakugan, a user could activate every chakra point at once. The Hyuga Gentle Fist technique, Revolving Heavens, works on precisely that principle, activating chakra points across the whole body and rotating them to form a spherical chakra shield, an absolute defense. Just being able to activate every chakra point made the Byakugan at this stage more useful to Mu Yue than the Sharingan. He didn't need the Sharingan to copy ninjutsu, he wasn't skilled in genjutsu, and the Byakugan provided a big perception boost. The only drawback was the obvious change in his eyes when he used the Byakugan. For now it had to be a trump card, only for emergencies. As Mu Yue considered ways to hide the Byakugan, he noticed the system's reward wasn't as simple as he'd thought. Black frame glasses can conceal major changes in the head and, to some extent, increase intellectual temperament. Once worn, they will never fall off or be damaged unless the wearer takes them off. Mu Yue briefly wondered whether indestructible glasses could be reforged into a weapon, but he quickly dismissed the idea. If they were truly indestructible, they probably couldn't be altered. He deactivated the Byakugan so his eyes returned to their natural blue, put on the glasses, and activated the Byakugan again. Something strange happened. Using a kunai's reflection, he checked his face and saw his eyes under the glasses still looked blue, unchanged. Even changes to his hair were controlled to some extent. No matter how he messed it up, his hair in the reflection never looked too disheveled. Of course, that was only in reflections. His hair really was messy if he touched it. Next, Mu Yue tested the glasses' durability. They were exactly as the system had said. They wouldn't fall off unless he removed them, and they were incredibly tough. He was pleased. Not only could the glasses let him use the Byakugan more freely, they could even protect his eyes in battle. Now it was time to test the perfect lightning breathing, the first perfect grade skill he'd obtained. Recalling the lightning breathing memories, Mu Yue felt how powerful it was. Like the other two breathing techniques the system provided, lightning breathing had been adapted to the ninja world. Rock breathing focused on extreme physical power, with the mark state consuming lots of chakra to boost the body. Flame breathing was built for fire release, its mark state turning into a fire release cannon with no cooldown. Lightning breathing was a mix of both. It strongly enhanced the body while also improving lightning release. At the beginner level, lightning breathing allowed total concentration breathing combined with lightning nature chakra transformation to vitalize the body, boosting physical abilities and strengthening lightning release. With proficiency, that enhancement could be maintained longer as the constant state. After mastery, the mark state allowed any lightning release ninjutsu to be used without hand signs, multiplied lightning power, greatly increased physical strength and speed, and improved recovery. Lightning breathing was essentially a lightning release chakra mode plus body enhancement. He had hit the jackpot. Mu Yue also learned what new ability came with mastering a brie thing technique, the transparent world. It didn't always wait until the perfect grade to awaken, but it was guaranteed at perfect mastery. Activating the transparent world pushed his control over his body to the limit. He could identify every blood vessel in himself, exert maximum force with minimum effort, and his chakra control sharpened enormously. The transparent world also let him see through other people's bodies, accurately predicting opponents' next moves while concealing his own presence. To Mu Yue, it was a purely combat ability. Foresee the enemy while preventing them from foreseeing you. Lightning breathing, total concentration. He shifted his breathing from the constant state of rock breathing to lightning breathing. Immediately, he performed lightning nature chakra transformation, and dazzling blue electric light burst from his body. He pricked his arm with a kunai, but it could not break through his defense. He tested his speed and found he was actually faster in the lightning breathing state than when using shave. After activating the mark, his speed became outrageous, so fast he didn't dare push himself too hard for fear of ending up in the Leaf Village main district in a blink. Shisui's birthday had given him a huge boost. Mu Yue felt a little excited to see what benefits his other disciples' birthdays might bring. Of course, another big burst like Shisui's would be hard to replicate now that he'd invited all his disciples to help celebrate. A move that built trust but also raised expectations. Teacher Mu Yue celebrated Shisui's birthday, so he should celebrate mine too. Back home, Mu Yue activated the Byakugan again and checked himself in the mirror. The reflection still showed his eyes unchanged under the glasses. He breathed a sigh of relief. From now on, except for sleep, he planned to take the glasses off, only when his strength would render concealment unnecessary. On Friday morning, he wore the black frame glasses as usual and went to the south border forest, sending out a few shadow clones to oversee the students' training. Teacher Mu Yue, why are you suddenly wearing glasses? Obito asked curiously. Shisui looked a little puzzled as well. I just thought black frames might suit me, Mu Yue admitted with a smile. What do you think? It suits you. It makes you look more mature and reliable, Obito replied simply. Yeah, they suit you really well, Teacher Mu Yue, Shisui agreed after a closer look. Mu Yue smiled and nodded, then headed to the ninja school. At the office, his colleagues noticed the change. Teacher Mu Yue, is your eyesight bad now? Ikeya asked. Mu Yue repeated what he'd told the students. It makes him look more mature and intellectual. He seems very dependable, Ueda Aya said, approving. It's different from before, Kimura Sugito mused, surprised that a pair of glasses could change someone's image so much. Maybe I should wear glasses on my next date, Ikeya thought aloud. Don't even think about it, Ueda Aya said flatly. Mu Yue has good features. Glasses won't help you. How do you know? I've never worn them before. Maybe they'd suit me. Ikeya still wanted to try. Mu Yue just smiled and went to his Class 1, Grade 1 classroom as class time approached. The students were curious about the sudden change. Kids' descriptions were always entertaining. They said he looked like more of an adult and seemed more approachable. Surrounded by students, especially the girls, Kotetsu Hagane nudged Izumo Kamizuki. To be popular with girls, you don't need the Hokage's favor. You need to be a Konoha heartthrob. A Konoha heartthrob? Izumo asked. Someone like Teacher Mu Yue, Good-looking, approachable, and popular, Kotetsu explained. He's even popular with the female teachers. Izumo nodded, and the two resolved to learn from Mu Yue. Maybe the system's glasses really suited him. In 2 or 3 days, everyone, disciples, colleagues, and students, had stopped staring. On Friday evening, Mu Yue finalized the intern plan he discussed with Hiruzen Sarutobi, intending to bring it for review the next day. Hiruzen had seemed busy recently, and Mu Yue hadn't seen him at Asuma's house on Saturday or Sunday afternoons, but he wasn't worried. There were still 2 months left in the semester. Even with Hiruzen's approval, the plan couldn't start immediately. Recently, Mu Yue had been guiding Obito through missions related to Kakashi. One training mission had been settled. Going without a new one would mean missing growth opportunities, because mission rewards are tied to strength gains during the period. As for Shisui's life mission, Mu Yue couldn't take that on now. As a special jonin specializing in education, he wasn't qualified to participate. He'd have to wait until Shisui matured a bit before they could proceed. Chapter 144, Obito vs Kakashi. Next, you need to engage in more battles to better understand the breathing technique, Mu Yue had told him. Battles, huh? Damn it, do I have to go find Kakashi again? Obito muttered, recalling the words. Metgai's strength was similar to his, and Shisui could suppress him easily, but both were deep in their own breathing training and had no time for fights. The only one left was Kakashi. He couldn't exactly go bother Asuma. Without using the breathing technique, Asuma would be too easy a target, and without battle practice, the breathing technique wouldn't improve. In the end, Obito decided Kakashi was the only suitable opponent, strong enough to be useful, not overly busy, and, most importantly, someone he finally felt ready to challenge now that he'd achieved total concentration breathing. If his control wasn't still a bit shaky, he would have dragged Rin along to watch him beat Kakashi and prove, once and for all, who was the real genius of Konoha. The thought made him laugh aloud. "Why are you standing in front of my house laughing like a maniac?" Kakashi called, hearing the giggle. He found Obito grinning on his doorstep. "Lewd? This is the triumphant laugh of a future victor," Obito replied, then remembered where he was and blushed a little. "So you've come to challenge me?" "That's right." Obito nodded. "Kakashi, prepare to lose. A few days ago, I became the top student in my year at the Ninja Academy. Is being top of the academy something to brag about? I got tired of that 3 years ago," Kakashi said coolly. "By the way, Obito, how many times were you first? It can't be just once, can it? I think I was always first in my year before graduation." "The number doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm the top student now, just like you." Obito abandoned the fight over grades. Kakashi pressed on. "Seeing you so confident, I thought you'd already graduated and become a full ninja. After all, even though I'm your age, I've been a chuunin for years now." Obito clenched his jaw. Graduating a bit earlier and becoming a chuunin a few years earlier. What was the point? If he'd finished that early, he wouldn't have met teacher Mu Yue. He forced himself to get back on track. "Kakashi, less talk. Let's fight." "Fine. It won't take long." Kakashi led Obito to their usual training ground. "You'll pay for underestimating me." Obito's anger flared. A little over 3 months had passed, and he was no longer the same Uchiha who'd been taken down by a body flicker technique back then. He'd mastered Flash, learned flame breathing, and added Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique, and Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson to his repertoire. His strength had improved dramatically. "Begin," Kakashi said calmly, still not taking him very seriously. He'd seen Metgai's leaps in power, and might have been interested if Guy were the opponent, but his mental image of Obito was stuck a few months in the past, when Obito had come to him for evasion practice. Obito immediately entered the breathing state, drawing in oxygen to power his body. Whoosh! He vanished from his original spot and swung a fierce punch toward Kakashi's stomach. Kakashi's pupil tightened in surprise. He hadn't expected Obito's speed. Caught off guard, he had no time to dodge and slammed up an arm to block, getting knocked back 2 meters. Power and speed like that. Kakashi's expression shifted. If not for his own years of combat experience, he might have truly been surprised. He stopped underestimating Obito and pulled a shuriken from his pouch, throwing it. Obito used Flash to sidestep the thrown shuriken and charged again. This time, Kakashi was ready. As Obito closed, Kakashi almost landed a punch to his face. Kakashi's flawless offensive timing turned the tide, pushing Obito back step by step until his clothes were dust-smeared. Damn it! Does Kakashi's taijutsu exceed Might Guy's? Obito fumed. He'd expected to go toe-to-toe with Guy and trade blows with the breathing technique, but now Kakashi was suppressing him, and he felt he couldn't bring out his full power. Bang! Kakashi's punch and kick sent Obito sprawling to the ground. Obito scrambled back, deciding not to match Kakashi in taijutsu, and formed hand signs to use ninjutsu. Fire release, great fireball technique. Chakra exploded through him as a 4-meter-tall fireball shot toward Kakashi. Earth release, earth flow wall. Kakashi calmly formed his own signs and raised a massive earth wall. The fireball smashed into the wall, which held, though a dog-faced carving on the earthwork was scorched and ragged. Obito scowled. He'd planned to force Kakashi to dodge, then exploit the opening with total concentration breathing and a surprise attack, but Kakashi had simply blocked with a defensive jutsu. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. Obito decided to make a bolder move. The speed and power he'd already shown were not his limit. He vaulted onto the earth wall and found Kakashi standing by it. Riding the breathing technique's boost, Obito charged while shaping nature transformation chakras, flames exploding from his palm, aimed to engulf Kakashi. Kakashi used flash to create distance, causing Obito's flames to miss. Seeing Kakashi act so cautiously, an idea clicked in Obito's head. He prepared to pull off single hand sign ninjutsu, something he'd never successfully done before. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. He produced 3 kunai, secretly forming signs with his left hand behind his back, and threw them at Kakashi. Only 2 of the kunai carried flames, but it still worked. Kakashi tossed 2 kunai back at Obito at the same time. Obito sidestepped Kakashi's throw and laughed. His kunai weren't ordinary, they would detonate. The distance was too close. Although Kakashi avoided the kunai themselves, the explosives detonated right beside him. I did it, Obito thought, exhilarated. The blast wouldn't seriously maim Kakashi, but it would make the next stage of their fight far more complicated for him. Just as Obito was quietly savoring his imagined victory, something unexpected happened. The aftershock of the fire release explosion hit Kakashi, and with a soft pop, he dissolved into smoke and disappeared. Obito didn't think he'd actually killed Kakashi. If the fire release had finished him off, his body would still be there. It was a shadow clone. A chill ran through him, but it was already too late. The instant Obito relaxed, Kakashi, who had been concealed underground, made his move. Konoha Secret Taijutsu Ultimate Art, 1,000 Years of Death. Kakashi formed the tiger seal with both hands, erupted from the earth, and struck Obito's vulnerable spot. Ah! Obito's face twisted in agony. Pain seared through him, and he leapt several meters into the air. When he hit the ground, he instinctively clutched his injured area, but it didn't help. He lay sprawled on the ground with his rear in the air and roared in fury. Kakashi, you despicable bastard! You were careless, Kakashi said coolly as he stepped forward. You lost sight of your enemy, and when you saw them again, you charged in without looking. If that had been a real opponent, you'd be dead. He said it plainly. Damn it. Obito had no comeback. He had lost, not to some overwhelming ninjutsu, but to a shadow clone. Had it been an impressive jutsu that beat him, he might have been able to swallow his pride. This loss, however, was a humiliating defeat in experience. Kakashi had been a ninja for over 3 years and had been in real life-or-death fights. Obito, a student, couldn't match that hard-won edge. Talk less of dreaming about defeating me. You'll need a few more years of training for that, Kakashi said, keeping his face composed. Inside, though, Kakashi was not as calm as he sounded. He was surprised. From the recent fight, he estimated that Obito had the capability he himself had when he was 6 years old. Good enough to pass the chuunin exams, though Obito still wasn't old enough to take them. Just a few months earlier, Obito might not have even been able to beat him at 5. Now, he had leapt forward. That kind of progress was startling. If Kakashi hadn't had the overwhelming advantage in combat experience, dealing with Obito would have taken genuine effort. And there was another curiosity. Obito hadn't activated his Sharingan. If he had, such rapid improvement might have made sense, but without the Sharingan, Kakashi felt puzzled. Obito's strength had jumped so quickly for reasons Kakashi couldn't yet explain. Pain flaring at his injury, Obito pounded the ground in frustration. If only he had the Sharingan. If only his flame-breathing cultivation had succeeded. If he had Mu Yue-sama's level of breathing technique, would a mere Kakashi have left him in such a state? Damn Kakashi. I was careless. Just wait until this heals. I'll make you pay. You think at your current level you can beat me? Not in 10,000 attempts, Kakashi replied evenly. Obito was strong for his age, but he still had a long way to go. You'll see, Obito snapped, stung by the underestimation. He rose with one hand protecting his injured area and hobbled toward the door. Are we coming at a bad time? One of Kakashi's teammates asked as they arrived. Maybe, Hatake. Sensei told us to gather at the Hokage building later. We have a mission today, another said. Kakashi's teammates took in the scene. Kakashi standing composed, Obito shuffling off in humiliation and anger. What bad time? Our battle's finished. He's got time. Obito muttered and walked away without looking back. Let's go, Kakashi said, glancing after Obito. We still have time to prepare. Sensei said this mission will be difficult. As a ninja, I'm always ready, Kakashi added, and his teammates, having nothing to argue with, followed him toward the Hokage building. Because his injury was in such an awkward place, Obito lingered to recover before seeking out Mu Yue. He wanted Mu Yue to review the fight with him and coach him before he challenged Kakashi again. Kakashi was leaving on a mission. If it was long, he might be gone a week or even half a month, time Obito could use to get stronger. You used total concentration breathing too early, Mu Yue said after listening to Obito's account. With your current stamina and chakra, you can't sustain the technique long. You need to reserve the crucial burst of total concentration for the moment you can finish the opponent. Although Mu Yue hadn't watched the fight, he could already spot flaws from Obito's description. I do feel tired after using total concentration, Obito admitted, paying close attention to Mu Yue's analysis. Still, Mu Yue said with a smile, being able to perform it at all is very good. Your opponent is Kakashi, a prodigy. I've heard the stories he left behind in the academy even as a new teacher. A mere Kakashi. I'll defeat him eventually, Obito said stubbornly. He wanted one day to be someone Mu Yue would be proud to know. I believe you will, Obito, Mu Yue said gently. But not yet. You need to train harder. He outlined Kakashi's strengths roughly. Obito only had about 1,100 chakra now, while Mu Yue had seen Kakashi with roughly 2,500 a few months back. By that measure, Obito was outmatched. Mu Yue hadn't appraised Kakashi's ninjutsu formally, but from watching Kakashi use the Earth-Release Earth-Flow wall and from how quickly he could recover and counterattack, it was clear Kakashi's taijutsu and combat experience were superior. Aside from Obito's unfinished breathing technique, Mu Yue couldn't find a clear advantage for him. So Kakashi really is that strong, Obito said, absorbing the assessment and realizing he had indeed underestimated his rival. Good thing I came to Mu Yue-sensei, Obito thought, relieved. If he ever had to endure another 1,000 years of death without better preparation, it would be unbearable. Just as Obito was thinking how fortunate he was to have Mu Yue as a teacher, Mu Yue received a notification. Disciple Uchiha Obito, set training mission. Training mission, defeat Kakashi. Reward, based on mission completion and increase in strength during the mission period. Mu Yue nodded to himself. Of course it had to be Kakashi. He was the one who always quietly propped up Metkai in Obito's training. First, master flame breathing, Mu Yue said, laying out the plan. In a few days you'll spar with Shisui, so you can get used to using the breathing technique in actual combat. Obito nodded. He would have preferred to fight Metkai. Those fights had a clean, honorable feel to them, with clear wins or losses. Facing Shisui made him uncertain. Shisui was sharp and had the Sharingan now, which tilted things against Obito. That evening, after Mu Yue set the dishes on the table, Minato came by alone. Isn't Kushina coming today? Mu Yue asked as he placed the stir-fry on the dining table. Kushina's on a secret mission lately, so she can't come for a while, Minato answered with a smile. If you have any questions about sealing technique from now on, just ask me. Oh, that's a shame. I even made steamed pork with preserved vegetables today, Mu Yue said with genuine regret. Could I pack some to go? I have an urgent matter and need to be off soon. Minato added, his face reddening slightly. He looked embarrassed at asking for leftovers, but there was no way around it. It wasn't that he was desperate for food. If he had time, he'd sit and eat, but Kushina insisted. She'd told him that if he didn't bring her a meal, she'd knock an Anbu unconscious and come here to finish it herself. Minato couldn't tell whether she was joking. He was worried for her. Kushina was in a dangerous period now, and he didn't want anything to happen. With the changing state of the shinobi world, Konoha's leadership hoped Kushina, the new Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, could become a trump card if war broke out. They were training her to control the tailed beast, but the Nine-Tails was the hardest of them to handle. Kushina had only recently become a Jinchuriki. Tapping its power risked being influenced by it. If a Jinchuriki lost control, the damage to Konoha could be catastrophic. So Kushina's movements were tightly restricted. She spent most of her time inside a building, reinforced with sealing techniques, and the village placed a large sealing barrier around that area. The barrier wasn't as potent as being inside the building itself, but it suppressed the Nine-Tails enough that she wouldn't be in danger unless she stayed outside too long. Pack some? No problem. The portions are more than I can eat by myself, Mu Yue said with a smile. He packed 2 lunchboxes, handed them to Minato, and joked, "This might be a little much. You sure you can finish it?" "Thanks, Mu Yue. Delicious food is never a problem," Minato replied gratefully. He'd planned to bring most of it back for Kushina, but with so much packed, he wouldn't have to skimp. After Minato left, Mu Yue activated his Byakugan and scanned the area. The Anbu who'd normally been stationed there every day were gone. One less pair of eyes on Hiruzen Sarutobi, he thought. When Kushina used to come by more often, 2 Anbu were always posted nearby. Being watched by them wasn't entirely unpleasant. Mu Yue had used that surveillance to his advantage more than once, demonstrating sealing talents, flashing a grateful expression on the day he was promoted to Special Jonin, and so on. Secret mission, training to control the Nine-Tails, most likely, Mu Yue guessed. Given Kushina's status, he couldn't imagine her out on some other kind of S-rank secret mission. If things were truly at war, Kushina wouldn't be allowed to leave the village unless the tailed beast had to be deployed. Minato's presence in Konoha was its own indicator. If Konoha were embroiled in a full-scale war, Minato wouldn't have the luxury of stopping by for food. So as long as Minato was still here and unhurried, Mu Yue read the larger situation as not yet catastrophic. He let himself stop worrying. Kushina and Minato would be looked after. They would survive whatever came. His real concern was for his students. Metkai might end up opening the gate of death for someone, and Obito could be the one who suffered half his body crushed and then watched his beloved killed. The shinobi world had a way of handing out tragedies in series. A few days later, Shisui had adapted to total concentration breathing and only needed to deepen what Mu Yue had taught him about flame breathing. Mu Yue set Obito and Shisui to spar so they could get used to applying the breathing technique in combat. Combat practice will have 3 stages, Mu Yue announced. Stage 1, breathing technique only, no chakra. Stage 2, breathing technique and chakra, but no ninjutsu. Stage 3, no restrictions. Sharingan is forbidden in all stages. Mu Yue forbade the Sharingan because its dynamic vision greatly amplifies Taijutsu. If it were allowed, Obito wouldn't be able to compete. No chakra, huh? Maybe I can win, Obito thought with a spark of hope. In pure breathing technique work he'd been making progress, perhaps even edging ahead of Shisui. There's a clarification, Mu Yue added. No chakra means the breathing technique is used without chakra. Techniques that require chakra, like body flicker, still require it and can be used if someone has the chakra. That complicated things. Mu Yue's personalized breathing technique could be used with or without chakra. Without chakra, many effects were reduced. Rock breathing's bodily enhancement was diminished, flame breathing lost its nature transformation acceleration, and the marked states conventional to breathing techniques needed chakra and couldn't be activated without it. Obito's hopeful calculations immediately cooled. Shisui's body flicker training was better than his. Without chakra, Obito's window for victory shrank. Still, in Stage 1, where ninjutsu was out of the picture, Obito had a real chance because Shisui excelled at ninjutsu. Rules understood? Mu Yue asked. Understood, both Shisui and Obito replied. Then prepare. We'll begin with a week of stage 1. They took their stances. Start! Both boys entered the breathing technique state, drawing deep breaths to saturate their muscles with oxygen and strengthen themselves. Obito surged forward, but before he could close the distance, Shisui was already in front of him. So fast, Obito gasped. Shisui's body flicker was simply quicker. Thankfully, neither could use chakra to boost speed or ninjutsu. Obito was a hair slower, but it was only a slight disadvantage. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. Obito decided to flip the script. He dove into total concentration breathing to dramatically amplify his power. Shisui avoided meeting him directly. Using body flicker, he created distance and used movement to neutralize Obito's burst. Obito's advantage evaporated, he couldn't catch up, and the total concentration breathing burned his stamina fast. Shisui seized the moment and won. Clap. You made the same mistake I warned you about, Mu Yue said, tapping Obito's head with joined fingers. Don't use total concentration breathing so readily. With Obito's current stamina and chakra reserves, total concentration breathing was his trump card, an ultimate move. If he wasted it early in a close fight, there'd be nothing left for later. I thought if I didn't use it, the disadvantage would just grow, Obito admitted, scratching his head. If I was at a huge disadvantage, I figured it'd be easier to turn things around with it. Mu Yue didn't dismiss the logic entirely. In some fights, being crushed from the start made you more likely to expose your opponent's weakness, and a well-timed ultimate could reverse fortunes. Still, Mu Yue wanted Obito to learn to judge each situation flexibly. The bigger the opponent's advantage, the more likely they are to show a flaw, Mu Yue agreed. But you have to know Shisui is faster. If you jump into total concentration breathing too early, he'll simply refuse to engage at close quarters. Use your head, he added. Shisui can think. Don't waste that point. Obito nodded, looking thoughtful. He remembered the fights with Metkai, where his wins had often hinged on exploiting his opponent's intelligence, sometimes without even realizing it. After a short rest, they fought again. This time, Obito held back and didn't trigger total concentration breathing so soon. He still lost, but he lasted longer. On the third bout, he didn't win either, yet he survived for another half-minute. He could feel himself improving. By the end of the first day of training, Obito still hadn't won a match. In the final round, he used total concentration breathing at a better time, and Shisui finished the fight tired, hard-won victory. Obito felt a small spark of pride. He'd taken Mu Yue's advice and was getting better at fighting smart rather than only fighting hard. Shisui, meanwhile, steeled himself. He'd told himself he wouldn't lose under Mu Yue-sensei's gaze. He was determined to live up to those expectations. Chapter 147, Plan Improvement. It was another weekend. On Saturday afternoon, Mu Yue took his in-ninja plan to Asuma's house. He didn't find Hiruzen Sarutobi at home, only Asuma's mother, Sarutobi Biwako. That didn't surprise him. The third Hokage rarely stayed in and tended to show up at irregular hours. Lady Biwako, I'm here to take Asuma to training, Mu Yue said. Teacher Mu Yue, thank you, Biwako replied with a smile. She hadn't had many chances to talk with Mu Yue, but between Hiruzen and Asuma, she'd heard enough to know he was a capable instructor. Asuma, are we training nature transformation and fire release today? Mu Yue asked. Yes, nature transformation is really important, Asuma said. I want to learn as much as I can. Mu Yue explained he had a training plan prepared. He understood something important. Asuma was the bridge that had persuaded Hiruzen to pull him out of route. As long as Asuma did well and Mu Yue taught him well, Mu Yue's position in Konoha would be secure. His goals went beyond simply surviving in the village, but for now he needed time to grow, and Hiruzen's favor could buy him that time. Mu Yue therefore treated Asuma almost like a formal disciple, showing him everything he could except what absolutely had to remain secret. If only you knew wind release, Teacher Mu Yue, Asuma said with a little regret. After I finish fire release, I'd like to learn wind. I do know water and fire, Mu Yue said. Jonin usually master two natures, so I haven't explored wind much. Wind, huh? Not impossible, Mu Yue chuckled. If I can learn it before I teach you, that would solve the problem. That would be awesome. Asuma was genuinely moved. His teacher's willingness to learn something so he could teach it showed real dedication. Maybe you're secretly a wind-release genius, he teased. Don't count on it, Mu Yue replied. I haven't had much contact with wind release. I won't promise what I can't guarantee. Later, when Mu Yue was sending Asuma home, Hiruzen returned from work. Mu Yue handed him the intern ninja proposal. Third Hokage-sama, this is the specific plan for the intern ninja I mentioned before, he said. Hiruzen took the papers and skimmed them, pipe in mouth. The top 15 students by combat score will be divided into 5 groups for internships, with competent instructors. During the internship, only C and D-ranked missions will be allowed. He read on thoughtfully, then looked up. Mu Yue, you're being too conservative. There are over 300 fourth-grade students. There's more than just the top 15. Even if you double it, you still leave many students out. And the internship period can be longer. Don't limit it to the second semester break. The third semester could be included too. 1 month isn't enough for proper training. Mu Yue had expected Hiruzen to complain about the small number, but including the third semester was bolder than he'd anticipated. If the third semester were included, the internship would be almost like early graduation for those students. I'll revise it and bring it back, Mu Yue said, showing deference. The suggestions weren't a problem. There were benefits to sending more students out to learn from experienced chuunin on real missions, rather than sitting through a final semester of little new instruction. Of course, they had to be limited to non-combat missions. On a real battlefield, even supply runs were unsafe. Given the current situation, Mu Yue doubted the village would send these interns into actual wartime duties. If that were the intent, they wouldn't be selecting only the top 30, but rather all fourth-grade students, and the school might simply issue headbands and diplomas early. For now, expanding the program made sense. On Sunday evening, Obito and Shisui fought their final match of the first stage. Starting tomorrow, you can use chakra-enhanced breathing technique, but no ninjutsu, Mu Yue announced. This is the last one? I really want to win at least once, Obito said, fire in his eyes. Over the previous week, they'd sparred countless times, but Obito had never beaten Shisui. Mu Yue had warned him, in raw skill, even a Shisui without his Sharingan would be a tough match for Kakashi, and Shisui without his Sharingan was still stronger than Obito. Now Obito understood why Mu Yue had said he couldn't beat Kakashi yet. In this last match, Obito showed extraordinary tenacity, trading long exchanges of taijutsu with Shisui. Only when he was badly disadvantaged did he resort to total concentration, chakra-enhanced breathing. Shisui met him head-on. Obito's breathing technique gave him a surge of strength that compensated for other shortcomings, but when his total concentration state ended, he still couldn't turn the tide, only reduce the gap. Fortunately, both were using the same technique, so neither paid an unequal price. When defeat seemed imminent, something in Obito snapped. He pushed past his limits and re-entered total concentration despite near exhaustion. This is my last breath, he thought, and a fierce power flared through him. With the renewed boost, he drove Shisui back, landing heavy strikes. Shisui, watching Mu Yue's expression, tightened his fists. His breathing shifted, and he too re-entered total concentration, catching Obito's incoming punch and launching a counterattack. Obito, you want to win, but I won't lose, Shisui said as he pressed the advantage. Relying on his superior overall skill, Shisui preserved his undefeated record. Obito still failed to notch a victory, but Mu Yue nodded with satisfaction. Both of them had improved. The way they'd broken through their limits in combat had definite merit. Chapter 148, Class Promotion Settlement, Ninja School, Class 1, Grade 1 Classroom. During ninjutsu class, Mu Yue lectured, precise control of chakra greatly determines a ninja's strength. For the next 3 weeks, our main focus will be improving chakra control. The second semester at ninja school only lasted 3.5 months, from early September to mid-December. Today was already November 6, leaving only a month and a half until the break. According to the schedule, Mu Yue was starting chakra control training. Though they had 3 full weeks, the goal wasn't to master both tree climbing and water walking. Completing just the tree climbing training would be enough. After all, students still had theoretical classes in taijutsu. Unlike special training, where they trained all day, ninjutsu class itself couldn't be entirely devoted to chakra control. They also needed to learn the 3-body technique. and the regular student's learning speed had to be considered. Don't let Kotetsu Hagane and Izumo Kamizuki's B potential fool you. Those two were already quite good for the ninja school. Most of Mu Yue's students only had around C potential. Mu Yue-sensei, what about those of us who've already finished the training? Anko asked. Anko, Kotetsu, and the others had attended the summer special training and already met Mu Yue's course requirements. You'll do regular training, Mu Yue replied. Although Anko and Kotetsu were a bit ahead, it wasn't yet the time to teach them higher-level skills. They still needed to deepen their understanding of what they'd already learned. Because they needed trees, Mu Yue led the class to the small forest inside the school grounds. Konoha had no shortage of trees. 10-meter-tall ones were common. Following the usual routine, Mu Yue explained the principles, demonstrated the technique, and had a few advanced students show what they could do before letting everyone begin. He didn't let them climb immediately. First, they had to get a feel for condensing chakra into their feet. The feet were the hardest part of the body to channel chakra into, and Mu Yue's students were all first grade, only a few months into chakra training. It was very difficult. Once they were somewhat comfortable, they could try climbing to get the real sense of it. Mu Yue set a first-week target of 8 meters. Reaching that would be considered a success. But in the first class, not a single student reached 8 meters. Some could barely take 2 steps on a trunk before slipping off. At such low heights, he didn't need to catch them. Everyone could land safely on their own. During a break, Kotetsu asked, Mu Yue-sensei, will there be special training after this semester? Barring anything unforeseen, yes, Mu Yue nodded. It was hard to know after the war ended, but he expected the special training to continue. It accelerated the growth of low-level ninja. What are the conditions to join? Another student asked, eyes bright. Everyone in Mu Yue's class envied Anko, Kotetsu, and the others. Before the summer training, they hadn't been exceptional, but after returning, they looked like they'd trained an extra semester. Their strength had jumped. Through Anko's stories, a lot of students wanted to join the special training instead of wasting their holidays at home. The next special training should be the same as the last. All 4th grade students, plus the top 8 in the grade-level practical exam scores from the other grades, Mu Yue answered. Only 8 people from each grade besides 4th grade? Can't they take more? The students complained that the requirement was too strict. The details haven't been finalized, and it might not be up to me, Mu Yue said. If Hiruzen Sarutobi entrusted him with the intern program again, Mu Yue planned to take students on internships and see whether completing commission missions could yield rewards. After all, his disciples would eventually graduate. Metkai and Obito would graduate in a few months. It couldn't be that good school performance earned rewards, but once they became full-fledged ninja, there was nothing. If that were true, Mu Yue thought about having Shisui finish all 4 years of 4th grade to secure more skill proficiency scrolls. Evaluation. Reward obtained. Under your guidance, Class 1, Grade 1 students have made significant progress in various aspects, receiving rewards. Konoha-style Taijutsu, proficient. Wind release, wind proficient. Chakra plus 300. After class, Mu Yue found that the Class 1, Grade 1 improvement rewards had been settled. The results were better than the last ordinary improvement, but slightly less than what they'd gained during summer special training. Reasonable, given the number of students. Mu Yue had no particular impression of Wind Blade Ninjutsu at first, but after receiving the memory, he realized it was an excellent A-rank wind release. There was nothing flashy about it. Wind blades launched from the fingertips, but they were extremely fast and had strong cutting power. All told, the class's training added 320 chakra to his account. Mu Yue opened his panel to check his total chakra. Name Hayate Mugetsu. His chakra was already approaching 10 small units. Although there hadn't been any cultivation mission settlements or exam rewards recently, his gains had still been significant. The jump was largely due to Shisui. When Shisui activated his Sharingan, it instantly granted Mu Yue 800 chakra, and that early activation let Shisui enter a preliminary high-growth phase for chakra. With the highest trust level, Shisui alone had contributed 1,800 chakra to Mu Yue this month, several times more than Metkai and Obito combined. Mu Yue could only marvel at how powerful that gold mine was. Even in preliminary development, it was fierce. When Shisui grew a bit older, what he returned to his master wouldn't be just chakra, but tons of it. Meanwhile, Shisui and Obito were involved in an intense, exciting breathing technique duel, and Metkai's rock breathing had just broken through. Its proficiency had exceeded 50, and Guy had begun training total concentration breathing for rock breathing. Although he still lagged behind Obito and Shisui, Metkai was full of drive. He hadn't given up on the tedious foundational training that clearly made him stronger, and that small sense of becoming more powerful kept him hooked. 149. Strange Girl Nohara Rin. In the South Border Forest, Mu Yue was holding his daily lesson. Rin, if you were put on a team with Obito and Guy, what would your role be? He asked Rin Nohara. To heal them when they're hurt, and to protect myself in battle, Rin answered. Medical nin are not powerless in combat, Mu Yue said. You know Lady Tsunade, one of the Sannin, right? Rin nodded. Yes, I want to become an excellent medical ninja like Lady Tsunade, she said, eyes full of longing. Tsunade was easily the most admired female ninja in Konoha. She had fans among both men and women, and Rin looked up to her. She wanted to be able to heal powerful injuries and hold her ground in a fight, just like Tsunade. As long as you train, it's possible, Mu Yue said with an encouraging smile, then continued. Excellent medical ninja have surprising combat capabilities. The higher your medical ninjutsu, the stronger you can be in a fight. He led Rin to a large tree. Chakra scalpel, he announced. Mu Yue gathered chakra in his hand, refined it through shape transformation until it was razor sharp, and then delivered a light chop to the trunk. Boom, the tree split cleanly in two. Rin covered her mouth, eyes wide. The cut was astonishingly smooth, nothing like an ordinary axe or hand could produce. That's a medical ninjutsu? She breathed. Yes, chakra scalpel is an A-rank medical ninjutsu, Mu Yue explained. It's an advanced technique that requires a certain mastery of medical ninjutsu to learn. He demonstrated again on a rock. The hard stone split as if it were tofu. Are we going to practice that next? Rin asked eagerly. Not yet, Mu Yue said. You don't have the foundation in medical ninjutsu to master it right now. Rin's shoulders drooped briefly, but her determination only strengthened. If she could learn that, her combat and healing abilities would both be formidable. What's next is different, and it can improve your combat power. Maybe even more importantly, Mu Yue said. He found another, bigger tree, and using a chakra burst technique, kicked it. The trunk snapped and fell. He kicked the ground, and the earth in a 4-meter radius fractured around him. The successive bangs drew Obito's attention. He kept glancing over as he rested from training. Is that Taijutsu? Rin asked uncertainly. She couldn't imagine producing that much force. A kick like that, if it hit a person, would be devastating. It is Taijutsu, but the destructive power doesn't come from raw muscle, Mu Yue said. It's a chakra technique called monstrous strength. He was demonstrating the Pain Sky Foot variant he'd learned earlier. Monstrous strength works similarly whether used with fists or feet. Using fists is Sakura Impact. Using feet is Pain Sky Foot. The key is chakra control. Rin had only begun training in medical ninjutsu, but she already showed talent for chakra control, so Mu Yue decided to teach her monstrous strength before attempting chakra scalpel. It would boost her combat ability right away. Obito, who had come closer to watch, piped up. If you combine physical strength with monstrous strength, that's a lot of power. Sounds like Metkai would be perfect. No, Mu Yue said. Guy's chakra control is too weak. He basically can't learn this. From his experience teaching Guy shadow clone techniques, Mu Yue knew Guy would focus on opening the 8 gates before mastering this kind of precise chakra control, and you couldn't use monstrous strength effectively after opening the gates. Teaching him this would be a waste of time. Among you, only Shisui and Rin are suitable for monstrous strength, but Shisui doesn't need it, Mu Yue added. Shisui's chakra control was excellent, so he'd pick it up easily, but he had no use for it. Obito's expression shifted to sudden understanding. Guy really did struggle with certain techniques. He hadn't even learned a simple shadow clone yet. As expected, Rin learned quickly. After some practice, she couldn't quite crack the earth like Mu Yue, but she could punch cleanly through and pad ordinary, not too thick tree. Such power! Obito gaped as Rin's slender arm drove through the trunk. Obito, don't underestimate a medical ninja, Rin said, withdrawing her fist with a gentle smile. Obito thought better of it. A punch like that against a person would shatter bones. Hey, Rin, with monstrous strength you'll scare everyone in the next practical exam, Obito teased, pleased for her. Mu Yue nodded inwardly. To keep Obito from sliding into darkness, Rin had to become stronger. She couldn't be a liability. His training plan aimed for Rin to be, by 12, a medical ninja proficient in advanced techniques like the mystical palm and chakra scalpel. With monstrous strength and chakra scalpel, she could fight when necessary, then fall back to mystical palm to heal teammates. I just wish she were my disciple, Mu Yue thought. He still hadn't used his last disciple slot. He wasn't sure whether new slots would become available later, so he was being careful. The difference a talented disciple made during rapid growth could be huge. At Trust Level 4, for example, if a gifted disciple gained 1,000 chakra in a month, Mu Yue would get 4,000. If a mediocre disciple gained only 300, he'd only gain 1,200. What Mu Yue really wanted was a disciple from the Uzumaki clan, but he lacked the right conditions. The only Uzumaki he could interact with now was Kushina, but she was already grown. Even with her tailed beast suppressed, her chakra appraisal would still read around 150,000. 150. Accident. When the combat training entered the chakra usage phase, the fights between Shisui and Obito intensified. Breathing technique without chakra and with chakra were two completely different levels. Greater power, faster speed, accelerated nature transformation. Everything translated directly into raw strength. Once Obito and Shisui reached their peak, flames and light were almost non-stop. With nature transformation ninjutsu of the same element, there was a 1-to-1 cancellation. 1 unit of chakra turned into flame, countered 1 unit of chakra turned into flame. When Mu Yue first transmigrated, Obito, being older, had more chakra than Shisui, but Shisui trained harder afterward and had even awakened his Sharingan. His chakra reserve had long since surpassed Obito's. Obito couldn't match him in Taijutsu, and now he couldn't match him in chakra either. So during the second stage of the battle, Obito felt the pressure build and was quickly beaten on the first day. Pressure bred motivation. Rin Nohara often watched the break-time bouts, and Obito's desire to perform well in front of her pushed him to train even harder. His breathing technique improved day by day. Relying on skill rather than raw reserves, he managed to hold out longer against Shisui in subsequent rounds. By the last day of the second stage, however, Obito was at a disadvantage from the start. Under Shisui's calm and swift offense, the gap only widened. With defeat looming, Obito had no choice but to switch to total concentration breathing to block the blows. Shisui could do the same, though, so Obito was only delaying the inevitable. Damn it, Rin is watching. I can't lose too badly, Obito thought when he saw Rin arrive. The presence of his friend revitalized his exhausted body and steadied his mind. For a moment, he dared to hope he could end his 0-win streak. But Shisui gave no openings, fought steadily, and never let him break through. In the end, exhaustion won out and Obito lost. You didn't win, but you fought well, Obito. I can tell you've gotten a lot stronger, Rin said to comfort him after. Obito's dejection vanished with her praise. He smiled goofily. Is that so? Mu Yue nodded. Good performance. After the third stage, we'll do some review exercises. You should have pretty much mastered the breathing technique. After comforting Obito, Mu Yue turned to Shisui, who had kept his undefeated record. I can see you've been training hard, Shisui. Not just the breathing technique. Your taijutsu has improved a lot recently. I've been practicing at home after training, Shisui said with a pleased smile. It felt good to have his effort noticed by someone important. Obito, do you want to go find Kakashi tonight? Rin asked. If Rin had omitted that name, Obito would have agreed without hesitation. But with Kakashi included, he hesitated. He wanted to be sure he could beat Kakashi before challenging him again. He planned to ask Mu Yue about his chances after making more progress. Mu Yue's estimate now was that victory was possible, but only with a huge stroke of luck. Kakashi would have to be careless, and Obito would have to perform extraordinarily well. Obito wasn't ready for that yet. Let's go together. Training's been tiring. We should relax a bit. He finally agreed. Tomorrow, the third stage of combat training would begin, and he suspected it would be rough, so he wanted to enjoy one night of respite. Even with Shisui restricted from using his Sharingan, Obito couldn't match him. Facing Shisui without that restriction, Obito figured lasting an extra 3 minutes would be a success. That evening, Obito and Rin went to Kakashi's house. Obito was glad he'd agreed to go, otherwise he would have missed a good opportunity. He got 2 bits of good news. Kakashi wasn't home, and he had Rin all to himself for a while. Could he have gone for a walk? Rin wondered. I don't think so. He's probably still on a mission. I once came by and ran into his teammates calling him out for a mission, Obito said with a smile. When was that? Rin said curiously. Must have been over half a month ago. This mission seems to be a long one, he replied. Over half a month? Being a proper shinobi isn't easy, Rin said, a little regretful. They spent several hours playing and only separated to go home when the night grew late. Meanwhile, at the Hokage building, a weary-looking Jonin and Kakashi walked into the Hokage's office together. The tired man bowed deeply. Hokage-sama, please accept my resignation as a Jonin instructor. I don't feel I can serve in that position anymore. Toda, has something happened? The third Hokage asked, frowning as he puffed on his pipe. I failed to protect my students. I am not a qualified teacher, Nagatomo Toda said, head bowed. Hiruzen Sarutobi likely already knew the situation. There had been an accident on the mission. Though the mission was completed, 2 of Toda's students had died, and only Kakashi had survived. Toda glanced at Kakashi, opened his mouth, but could not bring himself to say more. In that case, Toda, you should rest for a while, Hiruzen said with a sigh. He understood. Toda was a young Jonin, and those 2 students had been his first. It was natural that he felt deeply for them. Thank you for understanding, third Hokage-sama. I'll go rest, Toda replied and left, leaving Kakashi alone in the office. Hiruzen watched Kakashi's indifferent expression and felt a twinge of worry. He looked through the files. There was no suitable team to place Kakashi in. He would have to wait for the next academy graduates and form new teams then. Kakashi, that was a hard mission. You should rest too. I'll arrange a new team for you when you're ready, Hiruzen offered. Kakashi nodded curtly and left. Hiruzen puffed on his pipe and watched his retreating back. Kakashi hadn't always been like this. Something in him had changed after the incident last year. He still hadn't come out of that shadow. 151. Fighting for Ideas. As he stepped out of the Hokage's office, Kakashi couldn't stop turning Nagatomo Toda's expression over in his mind. Earlier in the meeting, he had said that Nagatomo was qualified to carry out the mission, but Nagatomo hadn't taken it well. There had been a flash of anger in his eyes. If they'd been anywhere else, Kakashi suspected Nagatomo might have said more. He couldn't figure out why Nagatomo would be angry at him. His teammates had died, true, but Kakashi hadn't killed them. The enemy had. He was only stating his opinion. Could Nagatomo really value a student's life more than completing the mission? Kakashi wondered. If so, he thought it was a good thing Nagatomo wasn't an instructor. In Kakashi's view, a true shinobi put the mission first. Anything else was a liability. A qualified shinobi completes the mission at all costs, even if it costs comrades' lives. He muttered that night as he stared at the dark house he'd come back to. He had once had a father he was proud of. Tsukumo Hatake, Konoha's White Fang, had been a legendary shinobi in the Second Shinobi World War, cutting down enemy after enemy. Kakashi had idolized him and modeled his training on his father's example. Ninja Academy graduate at 5, chuunin at 6. But when Kakashi was 7, everything had changed. On one mission, Sakumo chose to save his teammates, despite the huge strategic risk. The mission failed, Konoha suffered heavy losses, and the village turned on him. Even the teammates Sakumo had saved accused him. One day after training, Kakashi came home to find his father lying dead on the floor, the White Fang's blade having ended the life of the man Kakashi had once considered invincible. From then on, Sakumo stopped being a symbol of strength to Kakashi. As a shinobi, he had been unqualified, letting emotions overrule duty and causing great damage. As a father, he had been unfit too, abandoning a 7-year-old. Kakashi no longer took pride in his father, nor in anyone else. He opened the house and cleaned it from top to bottom. A month away had left dust everywhere, but with shadow clone technique, a single person could make quick work of it. With the house returned to order, Kakashi considered training next. Dinner had been eaten on the way home, so there was nothing more to do. He ended up doing nothing, lying in the yard and watching the moon. "Kakashi, are you home?" A familiar female voice drifted in. "Maybe he went on a mission right after he got back, Rin. Let's go play instead," came an excited male voice. Kakashi got up slowly, keeping his expression neutral. "Is something wrong?" "Damn, so he didn't go on a mission after all," Obito muttered, disappointed. "If nothing unexpected comes up, I won't have to go on missions for a long time," Kakashi said. He guessed there might be no team for him at the moment. His teammates had died, and their captain didn't plan to continue instructing. "Finally some rest after that long mission," Rin Nohara said with a gentle smile, unaware that Kakashi's idea of long could mean 4 or 5 months. "That's not the reason," Kakashi replied, shaking his head. "Then what's the real reason, Kakashi?" "You can't be lazy," Obito said. He wanted Kakashi to do more missions. "There isn't a team right now. My teammates died, and the captain won't stay on as an instructor for the time being," Kakashi said plainly. Teammates died. Obito's voice went flat. He'd seen them a month ago. He still remembered their faces. That 2 living teammates could be gone like that hit him hard. He felt the harshness of the shinobi life. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. He didn't know what else to say. Rin froze too, then hurried to comfort Kakashi. "I'm not as upset as you might think," Kakashi said. "They sacrificed themselves, but it wasn't in vain. The mission wasn't a failure." "Kakashi, what do you mean? A teammate's life is worth the mission?" Obito blurted. He didn't know Kakashi's teammates well, but he knew they weren't bad people. That day they could have left him and escaped, but they chose to stay and warned him the mission would be dangerous. "Compared to mission failure, a teammate's sacrifice is easier to accept," Kakashi answered, calm. "You really are impossible," Obito's face flushed. "I can't stand that." He lunged, punching at Kakashi. Kakashi caught his fist. "You're not even a shinobi yet? Do you want to lecture me, a chuunin?" he asked, tossing Obito aside and then attacking. Obito's anger flared. He activated his breathing technique to boost his strength, determined to teach Kakashi a lesson. Kakashi didn't hold back either. He unleashed a barrage of earth release and lightning release, mixed with harsh taijutsu. Even with total concentration breathing, Obito struggled to parry. "Damn!" Obito cried as Kakashi knocked him down again. He hated being outmatched by Kakashi. "If you stick to those naive ideas, give up on being a shinobi," Kakashi said harshly. "Do you feel it? This is the gap between you and a real shinobi." Despite his words, Kakashi was surprised. In just a month, Obito had improved a lot. His fire release and taijutsu were sharper, and he could endure long enough for Kakashi to go all out. Obito clenched his fists, unwilling to accept defeat. "I just don't want to lose to someone like you," he said. "What do you call comrades, anyway?" Obito shouted, drawing breath deeper than before. Power surged through him. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. With that cry, Obito vanished and reappeared beside Kakashi, delivering a fierce punch to the face that sent Kakashi to the ground. Kakashi hadn't expected such an explosive burst of speed and power mid-fight. He had encountered disadvantageous positions in life-or-death battles before, though, and quickly steadied himself. Their clash became more intense. Flashes of fire and lightning cracked through the clearing. Residual techniques gouged small craters in the earth around them. "You two stop fighting, or you won't be able to play later," Rin said, alarmed by how different this fight was from ordinary sparring. Her voice cooled Obito's fury. He wasn't strong enough to truly beat Kakashi yet, and his anger began to ebb. Kakashi, who never sought a fight for its own sake, relaxed as well. "If you have different opinions, discuss them properly. Why start fighting suddenly?" Rin chided, brushing dust from their clothes and smoothing them. "Because what he said was infuriating," Obito muttered. "Getting angry only shows how childish you are," Kakashi replied evenly. "You bastard, you want another round?" Obito's temper flared again. "If you want to be taught a lesson, go ahead," Kakashi said, indifferent. Rin put her hands on her hips. "If you two keep this up, I'm going to get angry," she warned. Remembering how Rin once split a large tree with a single punch, Obito shut his mouth. Kakashi didn't push either. His mood had soured enough for one day. But a seed had been planted. Today's fight guaranteed they wouldn't get along peacefully. From then on, everything the other did was wrong. If Kakashi bought grilled fish, Obito would complain it was old and unhealthy. If Obito bought tempura, Kakashi would criticize the reused oil. Their bickering extended to the point where even breathing seemed wrong. Rin had to constantly mediate, without much hope of stopping it. It's almost the end of the term. Another semester is nearly over. Time flies, Rin tried, steering conversation away from conflict. Another semester, then graduation. If some people stay stuck in those childish ideas, I'm worried for the village, Kakashi said, initiating another jab. Whoever ends up as your teammate next will have terrible luck, Obito fired back. Rin sighed and looked between them, exasperated but unsurprised. The three of them stood under the moonlight, the rivalries and loyalties of youth already beginning to shape them. Obito, what did you do when you went back yesterday? Mu Yue asked, glancing at Obito's status panel and noticing that his flame breathing had reached the entry level. I didn't do much, just played with Rin, Obito answered. Just you and Rin? Mu Yue sensed Obito was holding something back. There was also someone rather annoying, Obito admitted, choosing not to name names because he assumed Mu Yue didn't know Kakashi. When Obito said that, Mu Yue instantly knew who he meant. No doubt it was Kakashi. Mu Yue gave an approving thought to Kakashi. Not only could he provoke training situations, he could push Obito's growth. A future teammate already contributing before the team even formed. You don't need to do any more exercises today. Spend time getting used to flame breathing. You've completed the entry-level training for the breathing technique, Mu Yue said with a smile. Eh? I learned it? Obito scratched his head. He'd been so wrapped up in sparring with Kakashi the day before that he hadn't realized he'd actually mastered the basic form. Yes, you're the first to master the breathing technique, Mu Yue praised. Really? Ha! Shisui and the others should be learning it soon too, right? Obito beamed. Shisui, still practicing the breathing technique, felt a sting of unwillingness. He'd been training hard and was just a step behind Obito. Mu Yue casually appraised Shisui. His proficiency was already at 90 points, not far off. The progress of his students had exceeded his expectations. Even if Shisui lagged Obito slightly now, Mu Yue believed Shisui would finish before the semester ended. Metkai proficiency was only 70 points at present, but Obito and the others had shown rapid growth once combat training began. If Guy could pick up speed in combat, he might catch up. Next, Shisui, you and Guy will do combat training, Mu Yue decided. He had originally planned Obito to spar with Metkai, thinking their gap was smaller, but he'd seen that breathing techniques advanced faster under the pressure of stronger opponents. Facing someone tougher could accelerate progress. What about me? Obito asked, pointing at himself. He was eager to try his new flame breathing against Metkai and test whether Shisui's undefeated streak held up. Get familiar with flame breathing, Mu Yue said, tapping Obito's head. Mu Yue set the combat stage at the 3rd level. Shisui could use all of his abilities except the Sharingan, and Metkai could go all out. Rock breathing was purely physical enhancement, and Guy didn't use ninjutsu, so limiting Shisui would only have been unfair. Please guide me, Metkai shouted to Shisui, eyes burning with excitement. To Guy, Shisui was an undeniable genius, and Guy lived for challenging geniuses. Please guide me, Shisui replied calmly. Begin combat. At Muyu's command, Metkai shifted his breathing rhythm and charged with full force, unleashing his best taijutsu. Leaf Whirlwind, an incredibly fast whirlwind-like kick shot toward Shisui. Not having fought Guy since the summer training, Shisui started with a probing attack of his own, also a leaf whirlwind kick. The force of the collision sent both of them skidding back, Shisui farther than Guy. He's strong, Shisui thought. The power Guy showed now exceeded even what Obito had when entering total concentration breathing. Guy hadn't even been using his full boosted state yet. The effect of rock breathing on the body had to be enormous. Directly clashing with Guy in taijutsu would be foolish. Sensing danger, Shisui used a body flicker technique to dodge. The very next moment, the tree where he'd stood was kicked and snapped by Guy, crashing to the ground. Guy's raw taijutsu didn't intimidate Shisui enough to panic, It simply wasn't sufficient to beat him in front of Mu Yue. Shisui formed hand signs quickly. Fire release, great fireball technique. A massive fireball shot at Guy while Shisui tossed shuriken to cover predicted escape routes, then used body flicker to appear in an unguarded spot. Might Guy ha! Didn't expected Shisui to chain that much thought into a single ninjutsu. Cornered, Guy had to use total concentration breathing to bolster his body. Rock breathing's defensive lift, though significant, was still entry-level for him. He could only lessen the damage. The heat of the fireball still made him uncomfortable. With his body strengthened, Guy released chakra and lunged again with a rapid kick. Shisui had anticipated rock breathing's effect, so he didn't press a head-on taijutsu clash. After a flaming palm, he used body flicker and avoided the strike, making Guy's attack miss once more. As expected, he's very strong, Shisui thought, noting the pit Guy's kick had left in the ground. Guy's frustration mounted. After the opening exchange, he hadn't touched Shisui. At last, Guy poured everything into a second total concentration breathing-powered strike, only for his foot to pass straight through Shisui's body. An illusion? Guy blinked. A kunai wreathed in flame zipped past Guy. It's over, Shisui said. He could have thrown the kunai at Guy while the genjutsu held, but since Guy wasn't an enemy, he didn't need to. What a battle full of youth, Guy laughed, admitting defeat and giving Shisui a thumbs up. Mu Yue watched and judged in his heart. Shisui currently had no rivals among his peers. Even Kakashi, 2 years older, wouldn't be Shisui's match. Without Sharingan, Kakashi might be evenly matched due to experience, but once Shisui used his Sharingan, Kakashi would be outclassed. Mu Yue felt he was slowly turning Shisui into a boss. The original Shisui in the novels couldn't have been this strong at his age. Early Sharingan use and breathing technique training had inflated his abilities. He'd only become more exaggerated from here. You all did well. Rest for a while, then continue training, Mu Yue said gently. While his students rested, Mu Yue turned his mind to a different problem. Might Guy's trust level. Today was December 10th, only 21 days until Guy's birthday. Mu Yue had watched his students during Shisui's birthday celebration and suspected that the others' trust had increased alongside Shisui's. So Guy's trust should already be significantly higher than Shisui's had been before his own birthday. But exactly how much higher? Trust levels couldn't be appraised directly. Mu Yue could only infer from behavior. To be safe, he planned the biggest possible surprise, aiming to push Guy to trust level 4 in one go. It was harder with Guy. Unlike Shisui, who'd been an orphan and thus emotionally needy, Guy had his father, a strong, caring presence, and didn't lack paternal affection. Giving ninja tools wouldn't mean much either. Guy rarely used them. Also, Shisui had just received a gift. Giving Guy the same again would feel perfunctory. Mu Yue pondered and then thought laterally. Maybe he didn't have to center the surprise solely on Guy. He could involve Guy's father. That opened more possibilities. With over half a month left, he wasn't in a rush to finalize the plan. That afternoon, being Sunday, Mu Yue went to tutor Asuma. During a break, Asuma asked, "Teacher Mu Yue, how's your wind release coming along?" "I haven't become the wind release prodigy you imagined, but it's not terrible," Mu Yue answered with a smile. Wind release. Great breakthrough. He formed the hand signs and unleashed a strong gust at a large tree. Under the wind, the tree bent, and its leaves rustled violently, though it didn't snap. "It's still not as powerful as fire or water release," Mu Yue sighed, looking at the bent trunk. He'd prepped thoroughly to sell the persona, borrowed wind release materials from the library, and consulted Minato, so he could plausibly appear as a wind release novice. "Asuma, you've only been learning for a little over a month. Your wind release is already strong," Asuma said, reassured. "You still need to work hard on your fire release. Don't let me finish wind release before you've completed your training," Mu Yue warned lightly, patting Asuma's head. "I won't. I can feel my fire release getting stronger," Asuma vowed. After sending Asuma home, Mu Yue found the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, smoking in the classroom. "Third Hokage-sama," Mu Yue greeted. "Training's done. Good work," Hiruzen nodded. As Mu Yue was about to leave, Hiruzen called him back. "Mu Yue, have you finalized the interns list?" Mu Yue had indeed finished the intern program. Groupings and instructing teachers were set. With only 10 days until the school break, He couldn't leave it until the last minute. You included Metkai and Uchiha Obito, right? Hiruzen asked. Yes, they were the top 2 in the last 4th grade exam, Mu Yue confirmed. Good, then I need a small favor, Hiruzen said. Please revise the list. Either remove someone or add 2 more. A graduated ninja needs guidance, and I want him in the same group as Metkai and Obito. You'll be his instructing teacher. Hiruzen was thinking of Kakashi, the prodigy who'd graduated early and grown distant and self-destructive. Obito and Guy were among the few who still mattered to Kakashi. Mu Yue had proven himself an excellent teacher. Hiruzen trusted he could help. Is it proper to have a graduated student in the internship? Mu Yue asked, already guessing the identity. Not normally, but this is a last resort, Hiruzen sighed and told Mu Yue about Kakashi's situation. From celebrated genius to someone struggling to even find an instructor, Hiruzen didn't want him left adrift. Mu Yue felt a pang of respect and concern. White Fang was a ninja he admired. He couldn't let his son stay in the shadows. Third Hokage-sama, I'll take care of Kakashi. I'll do my best to help him climb out of it and restart his life, he said earnestly. Hiruzen relaxed. With your words, I'm relieved. Being a White Fang fan was an unexpected bonus for Hiruzen. Mu Yue revised the internship plan on the spot. He'd originally planned Rin, Obito, and Metkai as a group, but with Hiruzen's request, Mu Yue removed Rin from the internship roster. Following chuunin teachers on missions was less valuable than 4 months of focused guidance under Mu Yue's direction. So Kakashi would be slotted into the group with Obito and Metkai, and Mu Yue would be the instructing teacher. 153. Prepare for the big explosion. Guy, is it convenient for me to visit your home today? I'd like to drop by, Mu Yue said after training. Huh? A home visit? Metkai scratched his head, puzzled. Ninja school had no tradition of parent-teacher visits, so the idea confused him. Think of it as me coming to see your home. After all, it's the first time I've met another Eight Gates practitioner besides myself, Mu Yue said with a smile. No problem, very convenient. Metkai answered cheerfully. He welcomed Mu Yue's visit. Mu Yue had helped him so much. Metkai felt deeply grateful. His current success, top of his class, beating the ninja who insulted his father, owed a great deal to Mu Yue's guidance. Without him, Metkai knew he wouldn't be where he was. I'll run back and tell my dad so he can make more food, Metkai decided. Dai's cooking times were unpredictable. Sometimes the meal was ready the moment he returned, other times it hadn't even been started. It's fine, we can go back together. I can pick up some groceries on the way, Mu Yue said gently. He hadn't planned to eat, but since Metkai mentioned it, Mu Yue didn't want to refuse. Eating together would also make future plans easier. Teacher Mu Yue, you don't have to buy groceries, Metkai protested. Consider it that your teacher is a bit picky about food, Mu Yue chuckled, patting his head. Metkai still felt awkward, but he couldn't refuse Mu Yue's insistence. In the end, he led the way home, and Mu Yue stopped at the nearest market to pick up a few things. I'm home, Metkai announced, pushing open the door. Guy, welcome back. Did you burn up your youth in training today? Dai called from the kitchen, washing vegetables. Of course, today was another day full of youthful vigor. Metkai replied, and then, remembering Mu Yue, quickly added, Dad, don't be busy yet. We have a guest. Oh, a guest? Dai set the vegetables down and came to the door. Dad, this is Teacher Mu Yue. He's a teacher at the ninja school and an excellent instructor. He's been promoted to special jonin, Metkai introduced. Because of Mu Yue's request, Metkai kept things brief, only what was already public knowledge. Special jonin, eh? Then he must be a top-notch ninja, Dai exclaimed, showing his big white smile and giving a thumbs up. Hello, Dai, Mu Yue said with a warm smile. Metkai had given Mu Yue a quick introduction on the way. Dai's impression of him brightened. Though Dai was older, a special jonin didn't need to be addressed like a genin. Formalities fell away. Dad, these are the groceries Teacher Mu Yue bought, Metkai said as he handed them over. Why would a guest buy groceries? Dai frowned, feeling it improper. Haha, there was a sale on the way. I couldn't resist. Mu Yue offered apologetically. If it was discounted, then that's understandable. Anyone would be tempted, Dai said, rubbing his chin in understanding. Metkai scratched his head. He and Mu Yue hadn't been together when buying the items, so he didn't know whether there really had been a sale or if Mu Yue was just smoothing things over to make the gesture easier to accept. Mu Yue didn't force himself into help with the cooking. An overly eager guest can be awkward. Moderation was best. Over dinner, he started the conversation lightly. Guy works very hard at school. Although his foundation wasn't strong at first, he began to improve in the first semester of 4th grade. Now, in 4th grade, he really only has one rival, Mu Yue said with a smile. This is youth. Mido Dai cried, hugging Might Guy so hard tears welled up in his eyes. He was proud. His son had fallen behind initially, but never gave up, and to watch him climb from last to first moved him deeply. Dad, we're still eating, Might Guy reminded him, a little embarrassed. Eat more. Burning youth needs energy, Mido Dai said, letting go and urging him on. Might Dai, may I see your 8 gates? I practice that forbidden jutsu as well, Mu Yue asked after the meal. You know about it? You practice that forbidden jutsu? Mido Dai was surprised. Dad, I told teacher Mu Yue, Might Guy said. Besides attending class at the Ninja Academy, Guy is also my disciple, so he's told me about learning the 8 gates, Mu Yue explained simply. Mu Yue's decision to reveal the master-disciple bond had been deliberate. He trusted Mido Dai. He was an honest, down-to-earth man. Even though Mido Dai had the 8 gates at his disposal, he'd remained a lifelong genin and wasn't the type to gossip. Revealing the relationship would also earn Mido Dai's goodwill, which would help with Mu Yue's plans to further deepen the trust between the 2 guardsmen in the future. Teacher Mu Yue, no. Might Guy was startled. Mu Yue had always strictly forbidden his disciples from disclosing their bond. It's all right, he's your father, Guy, Mu Yue said gently. Might Guy felt Mu Yue's trust and resolved to tell his father later, not to spread the matter beyond the household. So he's your teacher then, Mido Dai said, starting to piece things together. He understood why his son had improved so quickly. Having a capable teacher explained the sudden leap in strength. Mido Dai bowed solemnly to Mu Yue. Thank you, Teacher Mu Yue, he said, gratitude and a hint of guilt in his voice. He felt remorse that, as a father, the only advanced technique he could offer his son had been the dangerously forbidden 8 gates. He couldn't teach other ninjutsu or taijutsu he didn't know himself. Since you asked, Mu Yue-sensei, I can't say no. Might Dai led Mu Yue and Might Guy out to his training ground. How do you want to see it, Mu Yue-sensei? Do you want me to show what happens after I open a gate? He asked once they arrived. If possible, I'd like to fight with you at your 6th gate, Mu Yue said. For most people, the 3rd gate is the last safe margin, but Might Dai had spent over 20 years cultivating the 8 gates. As long as he didn't hold them open too long, the 6th gate would be manageable. All right, I'll open to the 6th gate, Might Dai agreed. Gate of pain, open. Gate of view, open. He triggered the gates in quick succession up to the 6th. With each gate, his aura intensified. By the time he reached the 6th gate, a green energy enveloped him, and the pressure alone made Might Guy feel rooted to the spot. Through his Byakugan, Mu Yue watched Might Dai's chakra build step by step. Aren't you going to use the 8 gates yourself? Might Dai asked, thinking Mu Yue wanted an all-gates duel. I have other taijutsu, Mu Yue replied. Just go all out. Mu Yue judged that Might Dai at the 6th gate would be roughly elite jonin level and felt confident. Then be careful. Might Dai warned and surged forward, throwing a punch. Mu Yue kept his rock-breathing constant state active around the clock, which gave his speed and strength a huge boost. Combined with the Byakugan's insight, he barely shifted his body and slipped the punch aside. Haha, this is going to be a youthful brawl, Might Dai said, seeing how easily Mu Yue dodged. He hadn't known Mu Yue's true strength before and had held back to avoid hurting him. I'll go faster. With that, Might Dai vanished from sight and launched a kick at Mu Yue. Rock breathing, total concentration. Mu Yue inhaled deeply atop his constant state, increasing his power and speed, then countered with a ferocious punch. Bang! The clash of leg and fist rang out like an explosion. The shockwave knocked down nearby trees and sent debris flying. Might Guy stumbled back, watching wide-eyed at the spectacle. Both the 6th gate and Mu Yue's bond through breathing showed astonishing power. After the impact, Might Dai staggered back a meter, Mu Yue 3 meters. Mu Yue felt his body was still a little weak. He hadn't practiced breathing long enough. Gate of opening. Open. Mu Yue activated the first of the 8 gates. The fight resumed. With the first gate and his breathing technique, Mu Yue's physicals rose enough that even a full 6th gate Might Dai could only match him. Gate of healing. Open. Mu Yue opened the 2nd gate, increasing his strength further. Leaf whirlwind. He unleashed an incredibly fast spinning kick. Might Dai met it head-on. Boom! Another explosion of force cracked the ground and sent earth and stone flying. This time, Mu Yue only retreated half a step. Might Dai was driven back 3 meters. In Mu Yue's head, he ran the numbers. Pure Taijutsu, without activating the mark. 2 gates plus breathing technique and Byakugan are enough to beat an elite Jonin. He still hadn't touched many mastery-level ninjutsu, could swap breathing styles mid-fight, and hadn't used Transparent World. If he switched to lightning breathing, Might Dai's 6th gate wouldn't even graze him. He felt awkwardly in between, insufficiently persistent to face Kage levels, but easily lethal against Jonin. Let's stop here, Might Dai, Mu Yue suggested. The 6th gate was risky to keep open unnecessarily. Might Dai closed his gates and the green aura faded away. So strong, just opening 2 gates made you stronger than my 6th gate, he said with genuine admiration and a thumbs up. He was thrilled. Mu Yue was Might Dai's teacher, and it pleased him to see his son learning from someone so capable. A good teacher saved many detours in training. Mu Yue-sensei, I actually heard some bad things about you before, Might Dai said, changing the subject. Haha, you mean things like eternal genin? Mu Yue replied. You don't need to worry about that. Those rumors don't matter to me, Might Dai said with a hearty laugh. Before I met you, I already thought those comments were nonsense. How could someone who can teach a diligent kid like Guy be as they say? After fighting you, I'm even more convinced, Mu Yue said. With your strength, Might Dai, you should be a Jonin under normal circumstances. Might Dai shrugged. It's not their fault. Before I succeeded with the 8 gates, I was a useless Genin. His long cultivation of the gates had left him weak for years. He became the notorious eternal Genin. He'd been relegated to trivial missions, catching cats, picking up trash, moving luggage, and had to beg for assignments. Nobody wanted to team with him or believed in him, so he had no chance to prove himself. It's Konoha's loss that someone like you remains a Genin, Mu Yue said. Haha, catching cats also helps keep Konoha stable, Might Dai replied with a good-natured smile. For him, the past no longer mattered as long as Might Dai could pursue his dream. Dad, Mu Yue-sensei, both of you are so strong, Might Dai blurted, still replaying the fight in his head. They chatted for a while longer, then Mu Yue prepared to leave. He had come with 2 goals, to lay the groundwork for his trust-level improvement plan and to test his own strength. He was satisfied. Using normal breathing technique plus 2 gates had already eclipsed Might Dai's 6th gate. Now only a few top figures in Konoha could challenge him. 155. Obito's regret. The final exams are next week, so everyone should review at home this weekend, Mu Yue reminded them after finishing the last class on Friday. There would be no classes next week. Exams were scheduled from Monday to Wednesday, followed immediately by a holiday. Another holiday already? Some students muttered. What should I do? Hiking? Picnics? I hope I do well on the exams. If I get 90 in theory and 30 in practical, I'll have a comfortable holiday. As soon as the finals were mentioned, the classroom erupted into chatter. Mu Yue-sensei, will there be special training during the holiday? Is it confirmed? Kotetsu Hagane asked. He wasn't worried about ranking in the top 8. He had already done 1 special training session and had kept up his cultivation. It's confirmed. There will be special training after the semester ends, starting on the 3rd day after the exam results are released. The school will notify the selected students in advance, Mu Yue said. The intern ninja program would not interfere with the holiday special training. Both would proceed as planned. Will Mu Yue-sensei still be teaching? Izumo Kamizuki asked, the question he cared about most. If Mu Yue wasn't instructing, his expectations would drop. Another teacher might not be as good. I won't be in charge of the holiday special training this time. I have other matters to attend to, Mu Yue replied. But don't worry. This special training will be taught by 3 instructors together. The school is taking it very seriously. Hiruzen Sarutobi had apparently arranged for 2 additional teachers to ensure the instruction matched Mu Yue's standards, choosing those with outstanding performance. Ah, then I won't be able to see Mu Yue-sensei for a while. Anko said, a little disappointed. If I have time, I'll go and check on the special training, Mu Yue added with a smile. Evaluation. After class, Mu Yue called his students together to talk about the intern ninja program. This holiday, Obito and Metkai, you two will skip the special training. Instead, you'll get hands-on experience as intern ninja. Intern ninja? Hands-on ninja work? Obito and Metkai focused on different meanings at once. Mu Yue-sensei, does that mean we'll go on missions? Metkai asked. Exactly, Mu Yue nodded. However, because you're intern ninja, you'll only be eligible for lower-ranked missions. Will we get mission fees like full-fledged ninja? Metkai asked excitedly. If so, he could contribute to his family with his own earnings. The mission fees are the same as for official ninja, Mu Yue said with a smile. Is it just Metkai and me? What about Rin and Shisui? Obito asked after a moment's thought. The intern ninja program is for 4th grade students. Shisui is a 1st grade student, so he can't participate, Mu Yue explained. For 4th grade, only a small number are selected for the internship. The others will undergo the usual special training. Rin wasn't selected. Oh, I see. That's too bad, Obito said, looking disappointed. As an intern ninja, he could get familiar with real missions early, earn money, and speed up his progress toward becoming an excellent ninja. Rin Nohara, who hadn't been chosen, offered a gentle smile. It's a little disappointing, but we'll manage. You'll have to tell us all about ninja work when you get back, she said. In any case, she would graduate and become a ninja in a few months, so it wasn't a huge loss. Leave it to me. I'll explain the mission procedures and how I felt, Obito declared, patting his chest. Then I'll be counting on you, Obito, Rin replied. The assignment for intern ninja is just like with official ninja. 3 students per squad with 1 supervising teacher. You and Metkai are in the same squad, Mu Yue continued. Hearing that, Obito's regret deepened. He had hoped to be in Rin's squad. Doing missions with her every day would have given her more chances to see his strengths. Mu Yue-sensei, if it's a 3-person squad, who is the 3rd? Obito asked, curious. You'll find out when the time comes. It's someone you already know, Mu Yue said with a chuckle. Someone I know? Uchiha Tekka? Shiranui Genma? Obito rattled off names, but Mu Yue shook his head at each one. He scratched his head and stopped guessing. The field of someone you know was too broad. As he thought it over, Obito silently hoped it wouldn't be Kakashi. Kakashi had graduated several years ago. How could he possibly be part of the ninja school's internship? Remember to review hard when you go home. There are still final exams before the internship, Mu Yue reminded them. Ah, I almost forgot about the exams. Damn shadow clone, I told him to review, but he ignored me. Obito lamented. Using a shadow clone to study still meant the pain when it was dispelled, but the clone's pain was instantaneous. His own steady study felt like continuous pain. You can do it. Even if your practical scores improve, you can't neglect theory, Rin encouraged softly. The next morning, Mu Yue woke early and led the students to the south border forest for training. Obito practiced nature transformation while refining the breathing technique. Metkai and Shisui sparred in combat drills. Rin Nohara practiced medical ninjutsu. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson, Obito called. He formed a seal with his left hand and held 4 kunai in his right. With a single seal, he completed the jutsu. 4 flaming kunai burst forth, exploding on impact and leaving small craters in the ground. Finally, I won't make that mistake anymore, using ninjutsu with 1 hand and only 1 seal, Obito said, pleased. Leaf Whirlwind. Leaf Great Whirlwind. Leaf Strong Whirlwind. Metkai, pushing his rock breathing to the limit, tried to disrupt Shisui's rhythm with wild, overwhelming attacks. Trees toppled under his force, the forest echoing with crashing wood. Shisui, calm and composed, used body flicker technique to dodge and waited for Guy to expose an opening. Watching the chaotic clearing, Mu Yue thought he'd have to force them into a more open space next time before the trees were all gone. He used his appraisal ability to check their breathing technique progress. Shisui had reached 97, only 3 points left, while Metkai was at 82, needing 18 more points of proficiency. This time, Mu Yue thought Obito should still come out on top. If Obito didn't rush recklessly, it would be hard for Metkai to beat him with his current breathing progress. Still, it didn't matter much who won between them. Their theoretical scores were too average. Neither was likely to get a perfect mark. On Monday morning, after finishing his routine, Obito made a shadow clone and hurriedly said, "You go to school. Don't be late." The clone sneered. "Heh, still trying to trick me into taking the exam so you can slack off? Do you think I don't know today's the final?" As another Obito, the clone could read the main body's thoughts without hesitation. "Anyway, you usually go to school. The theoretical exam is your thing," the real Obito insisted, but the clone wasn't fooled. "Going to school is about saving face for teacher Mu Yue." "Don't even think about the exam," the clone replied flatly. "If I go, both of us will suffer. If you go, only one person suffers," the clone reasoned. The logic was airtight. Obito frowned, then dispelled the clone in frustration. "Damn Senju Tobirama, this shadow clone thing is useless." With his clone swap scheme foiled, Obito grudgingly ate breakfast and headed to school for the exam. On the way, he ran into a few first-year juniors he vaguely remembered from Mu Yue's class in the summer special training. "Good morning, Obito-senpai." Kotetsu Hagane, Izumo Kamizuki, and Anko greeted him. "Morning," Obito replied with a smile. "You don't look too happy. Something wrong?" Izumo asked. "Not the exam, is it?" Kotetsu guessed. "You could say that. I'm terrible at theory tests," Obito admitted. "Eh? Obito-senpai's not good at theory either?" "Me neither." Anko brightened, delighted to have a kindred spirit. Those theoretical bits are impossible to memorize. Obito felt a strange sense of familiarity looking at her. "We actually also," Kotetsu and Izumo tried to chime in. "Don't listen to them," Anko cut them off mercilessly. "Their theory scores are amazing. They got a perfect score in the one before last, and 97 or 98 on the last test." "Perfect score? Are you genius twins?" Obito was stunned. Didn't the human limit cap out around 60 points? Yet they'd actually gotten a perfect? "No, we just reviewed more than usual," Kotetsu said honestly, thinking of how Shisui was the real genius in their class. "These two are mean. They always bully me. I'm a low scorer in theory," Anko pouted. "Obito-senpai, what's your usual score? It must be above 80, right?" Obito blinked. The comforting mirror of similarity vanished. This Anko was different than he imagined. What's your usual score?" he asked instead. "Don't laugh. My grades are terrible and getting worse," Anko sighed. "My first score was only 80, and last time it dropped to 78. 78 was Anko's low watermark, barely. Obito had to move on before his fragile self-esteem cracked any further. "I see a familiar face up ahead. Let's talk later," he said, scanning his surroundings and jogging off. "Guy, wait up!" Anko's voice trailed after him. But Obito didn't bother looking back. He felt as if a kunai would pierce his heart if he stuck around. 80 as a low score, a perfect score just from reviewing more. If he'd never broken 70, he might have believed that exams were suddenly easy. He compared silently. "My first test was 20 points, he thought, furious at the memory. Another morning full of youth. Metkai boomed cheerfully, offering Obito a thumbs up. "Guy, are you confident about the test?" Obito asked, seeing him so enthusiastic. "Oh, right, the exam." Metkai's thumb fell and his smile froze. Obito let out a relieved breath. At least some people were sensible. On the first day of theory exams, Mu Yue hadn't been invigilating, but he wandered through the exam halls a few times. On the second day, he came to Class 2, Grade 4, where Obito and Rin Nohara were being tested, primarily to check Rin's performance in the practical exam. Among Mu Yue's students, Rin had the weakest raw strength. She'd lagged behind Metkai and Obito, even losing to some peers. But Mu Yue had taught her the monster strength technique during the summer training and worked on her taijutsu. He expected to see a marked improvement. Rin shouldn't be losing to anyone now, except maybe Guy and Obito. He had become his disciple during that training, and it had been almost 5 months. Teacher Mu Yue, Ueda Aya, greeted him. She was invigilating Class 2 today. Director Mu Yue, another teacher, added more formally. Mu Yue smiled. "I came to check on the students I was responsible for over the holidays." "You were selected as an intern instructor too?" Ueda Aya asked, though it wasn't a secret. "Yes," Mu Yue nodded. "For Class 2, it's those two. he said when Ueda guessed he'd be handling Metkai and Obito. The invigilating teacher announced, Examinee number 1, Rin Nohara, and examinee number 2, Uchiha Tekka, prepare. Ueda put down the small talk and picked up the scoring sheet. Around the hall, students whispered, Rin has bad luck this time. If she hadn't run into Tekka, she might have made the top 4, they said. Since the summer training, Rin had been doing very well. Apart from Obito and Metkai, undisputed numbers 1 and 2, only Uchiha Tekka had consistently beaten her. Tekka was in Group A from the start of the training. Rin only got promoted near the end, one student explained. Naturally, many favored Tekka for the practical exam. He'd seemed stronger than most. But with only 2 spots per class, Guy and Obito were simply too dominant. Rin, don't punch that guy to death, Obito teased, not really believing Tekka could beat her. It's not as exaggerated as you think, Rin said, looking as if Obito had a slightly off image of her. Obito just chuckled and flashed a cheering fist. Go, Rin. Rin smiled, walked onto the open combat area, and formed the hand seal to start. Uchiha Tekka took his stance too, but he didn't take the match very seriously. He was chiefly worried about the gap between himself and Obito and Guy. How does Uchiha Obito train? The more I tried, the bigger the gap, he worried, remembering his last match with Obito. Battle start, the invigilator called. Before Tekka could react, Rin vanished and reappeared at his side with a whoosh. That's a fast body flicker technique. Tekka's eyes widened. But what shocked him more was the taijutsu that followed. Caught flat-footed, he could only raise an arm to block Rin's small fist. Bang! The impact sent Tekka flying. He hit the ground hard, dust clouding up. He stared at Rin's slender arm in bewilderment. He hadn't expected to be knocked over by her. If it had been Metkai, he'd be prepared, but not Rin. Pain radiated through his arm. He'd hoped to form hand signs and use ninjutsu, but the injury slowed him. Rin rushed him again and forced close-quarters combat. Tekka, already shaken and injured, simply couldn't keep up. In 2 moves, he was airborne and down again. The students around the arena were stunned. Even Obito felt a cold sweat watching Tekka get tossed about. Is Rin's taijutsu that strong? Someone murmured. It was nothing like anyone had imagined. Tekka didn't just lose, he collapsed miserably without much resistance. Rin Nohara wins, the invigilator announced. Tekka lay on the ground and groaned. Teacher, take me to the infirmary. Mu Yue smiled faintly. He'd come primarily to see Rin. You continue invigilating, I'll take him, he told the invigilator, then carried Tekka on his back to the school infirmary. Once patched up, Tekka thanked Mu Yue. Thank you, Teacher Mu Yue. No need, Mu Yue replied gently. Tekka looked crestfallen. Am I talentless? He asked suddenly. Losing so thoroughly to Rin had rattled his confidence. He'd accepted being outclassed by Obito. Maybe Obito had a sudden burst of potential, and he also accepted losing to Guy, who trained like a maniac. Losing to Rin, who'd always been middling in practicals, was harder to swallow. You were placed in Group A at the start of the special training for a reason, Mu Yue said. Don't let one loss define you. You've beaten many others. Believe in yourself. Mu Yue's words steadied Tekka. Rest well. I have things to check, Mu Yue added, and departed for the training ground where the practical exam continued. He reflected, half amused, that if motivational speaking had levels, he'd be close to mastery. He'd said the right thing almost instinctively. Back in his own class, Mu Yue observed the usual pattern. Shisui still unshakably on top, Anko usually second unless she met Shisui early, Izumo and Kotetsu in the next tier. The rest weren't weak. Many simply had already surpassed their grade level. Director Mu Yue, the average level of students in your class is too high. If you moved a few of them to other first-year classes, they'd still be in the top 4, an invigilator marveled. Other teachers were shocked at how uniformly strong Mu Yue's class was. It was one thing to have a few geniuses. An entire class of top-tier students seemed excessive. Mu Yue shrugged modestly, then had a thought. What if he suggested to the third Hokage changing the grade-level practical exam rules from 2 students per class to selecting by practical combat score across the whole grade? With 16 spots in the exam, Mu Yue joked inwardly that 12 could easily come from his class. It would only make his class look stronger. There'd be no extra reward, but still, the idea amused him. Even so, comparing average practical scores between classes already showed the difference. Last exam, His class's average was double that of others. When the first round in Mu Yue's class was nearly finished, he went to the Class 2 Grade 4 examination hall. Rin Nohara was examinee number 1, and she was also slated to be the first to start in the second round. There was still more to come. Examinee number 1, Rin Nohara, and examinee number 3, Metkai, prepare for the exam, the proctor announced. Mu Yue immediately knew Rin Nohara's practical exam was about to start. He thought it would have been better for Rin to face Obito, but against Metkai, she would almost certainly be crushed. Rin relied almost entirely on Taijutsu, and Metkai was a Taijutsu specialist. There was no way she could win. Rin beat Uchiha Tekka so easily. Could she possibly stand a chance against Metkai? Someone muttered. Now that you say it, maybe. Metkai rose fast once too. Rin could be the same, another replied. Because Rin's last match had been so clean and decisive, the fourth-year students had high expectations for her. Rin, you can do it, Obito said simply. He understood the gap between their abilities all too well. Rin nodded and stepped into the arena. Guy, use your full strength. I want to see the gap between us, Rin said seriously. Burning youth means giving your all in every battle. Metkai replied, flashing a thumbs up before forming the confrontation seal. Begin. Rin was about to repeat the tactics from her previous fight when she realized Metkai was already charging. He was faster than she'd expected. Leaf Whirlwind. Metkai unleashed a whirlwind kick at extreme speed. Rin used Soru to dodge by a hair. Before she could counter, Metkai flashed in front of her and punched. Rin condensed chakra in her fists and struck back. The shockwave through the air threw her hair back and forced her to stumble several meters before she could regain her footing. So much power. He's not a match, Rin thought, feeling the numbness in her arm. She hadn't expected Metkai's raw physical strength to be so overwhelming. Her strongest attacks couldn't contend with a breathing technique-enhanced Metkai. Once he switched to full power, her defeat was all but sealed. Guy followed up with a fierce, relentless flurry of attacks that left Rin no room to retaliate. The students watching grew dejected. They had hoped Rin might break the top 2 monopoly, but she was clearly outmatched. Some wondered whether Uchiha Tekka had been overrated, or if Metkai was simply much stronger than they'd thought. Metkai wins, the proctor declared. Obito hurried to help Rin off the field. You okay? I'm fine. Guy is really strong. I still have a long way to go to catch up to you two, Rin admitted. If you keep training like this, you'll catch up, Obito encouraged. He believed that under Mu Yue's guidance, Rin would improve. He and Metkai hadn't been that strong at first, either. Ueda Aya, who'd given Rin a high score, sighed. What a pity. In any other class, she'd make it into the grade-level practical exam. But with Metkai and Uchiha Obito here, nobody else stands a chance. She grumbled inwardly about Akeyu's luck in inheriting such a talented class. She was sure it was fortune, not the teacher's merit, that accounted for the student's strength. As the second day of the class practical exam drew to a close, the last match pitted Metkai against Obito. Guy, I'm taking this one. I'll avenge Rin, Obito said confidently. From the earlier matches and watching Guy fight Shisui, he felt his strength had surpassed Guy's. Haha, then come on, let's burn our youth together, Metkai answered, all fighting spirit. Begin. Rock breathing, total concentration breathing. Metkai changed his breathing rhythm and entered total concentration breathing, pushing his body's abilities to the limit and charging. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito shifted his breathing, flashed back, hand seals, and spat a huge ball of flame. Although a C-rank fire jutsu, its force was considerable. Guy wouldn't take it head-on and slipped to Obito's rear. Seeing Guy so cautious, Obito regretted not pressing harder. If Guy had rushed in more aggressively, he would have used Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Obito swapped kunai for shuriken and fired, but Guy, in full exertion, evaded them. The first exchange cost both a little chakra and stamina, and both men, having trained together for so long, knew each other's tendencies and remained wary. After a tense minute, Guy thought he'd found an opening and surged forward. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Obito completed a one-handed seal and threw a flaming kunai, but Guy anticipated it, flashed away, and delivered a whirlwind kick toward Obito. Just when Guy believed he had the advantage, Obito smiled. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing, he announced, and caught Guy's incoming kick with a palm suddenly wreathed in flame. Even with rock breathing heightening his leg and body, the heat burned Guy. How did Obito's speed and strength jump like that? Might Guy wondered. He hadn't expected Obito to catch him. Inside, Obito felt smug. Only after truly mastering total concentration breathing had he realized how shallow his earlier attempts had been. The mastered form amplified his power drastically, so much so that it consumed enormous stamina and chakra. He could only use that full power total concentration breathing once. A second time would be impossible. Keeping normal breathing afterward was already the absolute limit. Even with the amplification, Obito knew from watching Guy and Shisui that mastered total concentration breathing might at best put him on equal footing with Guy. It wouldn't guarantee dominance. With that and his lesser taijutsu experience, Obito hadn't planned to win a taijutsu slugfest using it. Instead, he used it to bait Guy and then strike, catching him off guard. With his full-powered assault, Guy, even at the limits of rock breathing, couldn't withstand the onslaught and soon fell. Uchiha Obito wins, the proctor called. Obito couldn't help pumping his fist. He'd been first in the grade before, but this was his first time claiming first within his own class, and it felt hard-earned. He'd been cautious during the fight. Fire Release's power could be dangerous if mishandled. He resolved to fight steadily like Shisui from now on, and not be careless. Obito, you did really well, Rin praised. Heh, Rin, you'll be like me someday, Obito said faintly, smiling. You didn't waste learning the breathing technique first, Mu Yue added approvingly. Obito felt on top of the world, praised by Rin and Mu Yue. What could be better? After the exam, Mu Yue took his students back to the south border forest, treated Might Guy's injuries, and began teaching Obito new ninjutsu. What I'll teach next is the dust cloud technique. It's useful for both retreat and attack, Mu Yue explained. Obito had already mastered 4 offensive fire jutsu, so Mu Yue chose a more functional fire release for him. Fire release, dust cloud technique. Mu Yue condensed chakra in his throat and exhaled a jet of high-temperature flames mixed with scorching dust. Because large trees were nearby, he controlled the power and emphasized the dust over flame. Obito lost sight of Mu Yue in the sudden cloud. After a short demonstration, Mu Yue dispelled the technique. But what if I can't see either when I use it? Obito asked, scratching his head. You have 2 choices, Mu Yue said. First, use it only to retreat, make the dust and run. Second, undergo special training to learn to locate by sound and launch surprise attacks inside the dust. Obito decided to learn it. The technique seemed powerful. You taught your disciple fire release, dust cloud technique. Due to the disciple's immense gratitude, a critical reward triggered, granting you the ninjutsu fire release, secret technique, great fire technique, proficient. It was a small critical hit. The reward was ordinary. Mu Yue would rarely use that jutsu himself. It was a Sarutobi clan's secret technique, typically known only to Sarutobi ninja. On the 3rd day of the grade-level practical exam, yearly, Mu Yue chose the 4th-year arena. The first-year matches were predictable, Shisui dominating, Anko steady in second, as long as she avoided Shisui. In the 4th-year bracket, Obito remained a possible stumbling block. He was Obito, after all. On the 3rd day, Obito and Might Guy met again in a 4-2 elimination. Having learned from past mistakes, Obito wasn't careless this time. He fought steadily and beat Might Guy again. Now Obito is definitely first, the students watching concluded. The other 4-2 winner was Hyuga Homura, the previous top student whom Might Guy had easily defeated in the last exam. As expected, Obito defeated Hyuga with far less intensity than his match against Guy. He didn't need many jutsu, a great fireball to control Homura's movement, then a reckless charge with flame breathing finished it. Homura couldn't parry. First place in this semester's grade-level practical exam yearly is Uchiha Obito, the proctor announced, and the final exam concluded. With the exam over came vacation. 4th-year students wouldn't have a long rest. They'd return to special training or internships after 4 days, but Mu Yue gave Obito, Guy, and Rin a short break. Obito and Guy, gather at the training ground I mentioned next Monday. Enjoy your rest, Mu Yue said. We'll start missions next Monday, huh? Obito asked, interested. Today's only Wednesday. There's plenty of time off, Rin said. Having trained daily since becoming Mu Yue's disciple, she felt these days off were unusually long. Burning youth means training every day, Metkai declared. He planned to be in the South Border Forest training the very next day. Mu Yue-sensei, will you still be in the forest these days? Shisui asked. Yes. If any of you can't sit still, come find me, Mu Yue replied with a gentle smile. I still feel there are parts of the breathing technique I don't understand. I'll trouble you then, Shisui said, careful not to sound like he was imposing. It's a teacher's duty to clear up students' doubts, Mu Yue answered warmly. Don't call it trouble. If you have questions, ask me promptly. A teacher's greatest pleasure is seeing students improve. Both Shisui and Metkai planned to keep training, which made Obito feel a bit embarrassed. If he didn't train, wouldn't he be the laziest of Mu Yue's students? Obito, are you going to share the good news with Kakashi tonight? Someone teased. To handle the life of a ninja, more training is necessary, Obito said with a serious expression. On Friday morning, Mu Yue went to the ninja school. It was the day the grades would be released. He had to hand out test papers and attend a couple of meetings. He was in a good mood. Shortly after waking, he received the exam rewards from the system. Disciple Uchiha Shisui cultivated diligently and achieved a perfect score in the academic assessment. Rewards: Chakra plus 300, Skill Proficiency Scroll. Disciple Uchiha Obito cultivated diligently and achieved an excellent score in the academic assessment. Rewards: Chakra plus 250. Disciple Metkai cultivated diligently and achieved a good score in the academic assessment. Rewards: Chakra 200. 750 chakra in total brought him noticeably closer to his modest goal of 50,000 chakra. The system display showed, name, Hayate Mugetsu chakra, 3,500. Mu Yue's chakra level had reached 12.2 small units. He was pleased. Obito and Metkai's cultivation tasks were still unsettled. So much of this increase came from Shisui's rapid rise after activating his Sharingan. Since the end of the special training this semester, his chakra had grown by nearly 15,000 points. By contrast, in the previous semester, despite the special training ending earlier, his total increase was only about 10,000. Several factors explained the difference. He'd been sacrificing ninjutsu rewards for chakra in class. His own body's natural chakra growth had accelerated, and his disciples were developing quickly. Mu Yue expected the current growth rate to hold for the semester. Even as Shisui's surge slowed back toward a normal pace, his progress remained faster than before the Sharingan. Obito and Metkai were also steadily improving. If things continued, Mu Yue hoped to reach 20 small units, 50,000 chakra, by the time Obito graduated. Even if he fell short, he wouldn't be far off. Teacher Mu Yue, I made great progress this time. 83 points. Can I get a reward? Anko announced as soon as she entered the classroom. An improvement of 5 points is great progress? Mu Yue teased, ruffling her head. Heh, it's my best theory score ever, Anko said, laughing. Here, eat this. Mu Yue handed her a serving of dango. He gave students treats regardless of scores. Spending a little to gain a lot of goodwill felt like a good deal. The first meeting of the day was the General Summary Conference, followed by awards for outstanding teachers. Mu Yue's place among the excellent teachers was secure. Class 1, Grade 1 had already been dubbed a divine class by colleagues. After the main conference, there was a smaller session for teachers with key responsibilities. They discussed upcoming teaching work, summer special training, interns, and a pilot program for large classes. In this final exam, the 4 classes led by teacher Kongji showed a theoretical average increase of 3 points. For theoretical subjects, the effect of large classes and small classes looks almost the same, one teacher reported after reviewing the data. There were 8 first-grade classes in total. Mu Yue led 4, and Kono Kongji led 4. Because of Mu Yue's exceptional personal skill, his class's results weren't used for direct comparison. After discussion, the faculty agreed to expand the large class approach to other grades. After the meetings, Mu Yue was summoned to the principal's office. The office was usually calm and tidy. When he entered, he found it arranged exactly as it had the first time he'd been there. The third Hokage wasn't at the desk, but seated at a small tea table near the door. Mu Yue, you're here. Sit, Hiruzen Sarutobi said with a chuckle, removing his pipe. Third Hokage-sama, Mu Yue replied politely and sat where indicated. I hoped you'd keep up the same standard each semester as you did in the first, Hiruzen said, stroking his small beard, but you keep surprising me. Your Class 1, Grade 1, has made real breakthroughs in combat performance. Their strength now far exceeds other classes of the same year. I might have underestimated you, Mu Yue. If this continues, your class won't be compared to peers, but to classes in higher grades. It's mainly because the students cooperate well, Mu Yue answered modestly. Humility might leave others underestimating him, but his accomplishments were visible. His modesty made him seem approachable. Hiruzen mused. Is there any ninjutsu you want to learn? Elemental techniques or a sealing technique? Name it. There was a limit to Mu Yue's upward mobility. Hiruzen was already planning to promote him to vice head of the teacher class next semester. But the head position belonged to a veteran who had been among the school's first graduates and had earned meritorious deeds in the Second Shinobi World War. Mu Yue's achievements weren't yet sufficient to replace him. Since another promotion wasn't feasible, the Hokage preferred to reward him with a technique. I'd like to learn a sealing technique, Mu Yue said after a moment's thought. He hadn't gained any sealing technique through the system yet. Receiving one from the Hokage would be valuable. No problem. I'll have someone deliver it to your home in a few days, Hiruzen replied. About Kakashi, Hiruzen added more gravely. Please put more effort into him, Mu Yue. I can't bear to see a genius like that decline. I will do my best, Mu Yue answered solemnly. An potential prodigy like Kakashi was precisely the kind of person he'd been holding his fourth disciple slot open for. The system rewarded taking disciples early. Adults who had already matured didn't maximize those benefits. An 8-year-old Kakashi was a perfect candidate. Shisui had actually been a little young too, but the Sharingan had accelerated his development. Without it, Mu Yue would have had to wait for him to grow. On Monday, Kakashi spent the morning trying to decide whether to wander the village or stay home and read novels. Then he remembered Hiruzen had told him he'd been assigned to a new team. Training Ground 22, Kakashi muttered, recalling the Hokage's words as he set off. He remembered the look on his instructor's face outside the Hokage's office and hoped this time his new teacher and teammates would be more mature. 159. Konoha Classic Project. I'm really looking forward to it. The Life of a Ninja. Obito woke up early, washed, and headed toward the meeting spot he and Mugetsu had agreed on. Who will the other teammate be? Could it be Rin? Is Mugetsu-sensei planning some surprise? He let his imagination run wild. Hey, Pancake Man, 1 pancake please! Obito shouted, dashing over to the street vendor. He bought his breakfast and ate while he walked, hurrying toward the training ground. After all those years at the Ninja Academy, he was thrilled to finally get a taste of real ninja life. On the way, he spotted an elderly woman struggling with her bags. Grandma, do you need help? Obito asked, finishing his pancake, tossing the wrapper in a bin and running over to assist. Today's going to be a meaningful day, he said with a smile after helping her. Then he remembered. Wait, team meeting! He broke into a sprint for the training ground. He was glad he'd gotten up early. Even if he was a little delayed, he shouldn't be too late. As he arrived, 2 familiar voices reached him, and he saw 2 familiar figures. As expected of my best friend and rival, meeting here by coincidence again, one voice said. No, I'm not here to train. I'm here to find a team. Shall we have a youthful, passionate contest? Let's race. No, I have something else to do today. When Obito saw them, he couldn't hold back and rushed forward. Hey, Kakashi, what are you doing here? A cold dread tightened in his chest. Kakashi couldn't possibly be the other teammate, could he? Obito tried to reason it away. Kakashi had graduated years ago. He was already a chuunin. There was no way he'd be an intern ninja. Maybe Kakashi was just training here, and they'd run into him by chance. Hearing Obito's voice, Kakashi turned, puzzled. It was one thing to bump into Metkai at the training ground, but why was Obito here too? Shouldn't you be at school right now? Kakashi asked casually. You blockhead. Ninja school was on break last week, Obito shot back. Kakashi blinked. My apologies. I've been graduated so long that my sense of time isn't as sharp as yours. 3 years have gone by, and you're still at the academy, he said, smirking. Obito was left speechless. Every time the topic came up, he was at a loss for a comeback. I don't have time to mess around, Kakashi added, about to move on. He wasn't a man who liked wasting time. You must be Kashi Hatake, right? A calm voice cut through, and Hayate Mugetsu appeared at Kakashi's side as if from nowhere. Kakashi's eyes narrowed. He'd sensed no one approach. So fast, he thought, surprised. Yes, I am Hayate Mugetsu, she said with a gentle smile. Hiruzen Sarutobi had told Kakashi the name of the instructor for the squad he was about to join. Looking at her face, Kakashi recalled seeing her once before, perhaps during the youth ninjutsu competition. Obito's stomach dropped. Captain? He felt the bad premonition explode. That means Kakashi is my teammate. That can't be, he blurted out. He'd never expected Kakashi to be placed on their team. No matter how he thought about it, Kakashi didn't belong with intern ninjas. Obito, is there a problem? Mugetsu asked calmly. Kakashi graduated ages ago. He's already a chuunin. Why would he join our intern ninja team? Obito scratched his head, bewildered. Kakashi looked equally puzzled. He had assumed running into Obito and Guy was coincidence. Now it seemed they were to be his teammates. Mugetsu smiled, unfazed. The situation is a bit unusual, but for the next few months, Kakashi will be your teammate. There's no doubt about it, she explained. Obito and Guy haven't graduated yet. This intern ninja program is run by the academy to give outstanding students an early start in real ninja work. Kakashi felt like Hiruzen had pulled a fast one on him. Throwing a chuunin in with academy students wasn't exactly part of his plans. He chastised himself for being caught off guard by a teacher's approach. Everyone, let's do introductions, Mugetsu said. You're ninjas, yes, but you're still ninjas. That means things are different from before. I'll go first, she continued. My name is Hayate Mugetsu. I enjoy teaching and watching students grow stronger. My hobby is calligraphy, and I like dishes made with eggs. Her smile was warm and calm, just as I expected. Might Guy boomed, giving her a thumbs up. I am Might Guy. I love training, and my dream is to become the strongest taijutsu ninja in the world. I want everyone to know that even if you can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, you can still become strong. His passion filled the air. Kakashi thought, that's exactly what Guy would say. I'm Uchiha Obito, Obito declared with a grin. I like helping people in need. I hate homework, and my dream is to be a Hokage who surpasses all the previous ones. Kakashi hesitated, then spoke simply. I am Kakashi Hatake. I'd rather not talk about likes, dislikes, interests, or dreams. You just said nothing but your name, Obito muttered. Kakashi ignored him and met Mugetsu's eyes. She nodded and reached into the folds of her robe, producing 3 small bells. For the next day, she said, holding the bells up, you will succeed if you manage to snatch a bell from me. And those who fail will have to prepare their own dinner, and they won't get my special cooking, she added lightly. Kakashi's expression told the truth. He thought the punishment was trivial. Boring, he decided. Still, the exercise was at least a start. The training was set. The 3 bells jingled faintly in the afternoon light as the new team braced for the challenge ahead. 160. Their respective countermeasures. All right, from now until sunset, you can use any method to snatch the bells from me. Mu Yue said it plainly, hung the bells at his waist, and leaned back against a broad tree as if he were merely resting. He looked relaxed, almost careless, yet none of the 3 boys rushed him. Obito and Might Guy had been trained by Mu Yue for some time and knew how dangerous he could be. Might Guy in particular had seen Mu Yue fight a 6 Gates user. That speed and strength were far beyond what he could touch. Kakashi, an experienced shinobi, wasn't about to test Mu Yue's full power either. He planned to wait for the others to try first, then seize an opening. How are we supposed to get them? It's almost impossible to take something from teacher Mu Yue, Obito muttered, scratching his head. He couldn't come up with a plan on the spot. Charging straight in would be suicide. Might Guy, always blunt and straightforward, agreed. If we just rush him, it's useless. Kakashi considered them both for a moment, then asked, Do you know anything about Captain Mu Yue? Any useful details? Obito brightened. Of course. He stopped and flushed, remembering. He was our summer special training teacher, he finished quickly. He's excellent at chakra control, really good at tree walking and water walking, and his body flicker technique is incredibly fast. Kakashi nearly sighed. Of all that, Only body flicker mattered. The rest was basic. Still, it suggested Mu Yue was a speed-type fighter. Kakashi had just come from a brutal fight. His reflexes and judgment were sharpened. Speed types tended to be error-intolerant, especially teachers who hadn't seen real combat in a while. He already had a strategy forming in his head. Don't go one-on-one. We don't need to beat him. Just take the bells. Use traps to distract him, Obito proposed after a moment. He'd felt how effective surprise and traps could be during his training. Metkai nodded. He didn't have a better idea. Kakashi, aren't you coming to set traps with us? Obito asked, annoyed at his calm teammate. Don't go off by yourself and buy snacks. Your imagination is creative, Kakashi said coolly, but I don't trust your trap construction. I'll handle the bell snatching on my own. He would still set traps, but not with Obito and Guy. He had seen the kind of pits and weak snares they were good at. Those could be dodged by a skilled opponent. Obito protested, but Kakashi vanished with a blink before he could get more riled. Guy, here's the plan, Obito told Metkai. You bait him into the trapping area. I'll pin him with fire release in the traps. He'll be occupied and you can grab the bells. Leave it to me. My youth is on fire. Metkai grinned and immediately got excited. He didn't want to charge head-on and be cut down, so he kept 20 meters back and lobbed several shuriken at Mu Yue. Mu Yue, who had been resting with his eyes closed, opened them, dodged the shuriken, stretched, and then charged. Metkai ran for the trap area and used his rock breathing to accelerate. Mu Yue, treating this as training, didn't go all out. He controlled his speed and stayed behind Metkai to teach. Obito, waiting in ambush, cut the rope holding a huge log with a kunai. The log swung toward Mu Yue. Metkai dodged. Mu Yue flickered at the last instant and leapt onto a nearby tree to avoid it. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Obito formed the seals and sent a towering 4-meter flame toward Mu Yue. It's working. Obito pumped his fist. At this range, Mu Yue wouldn't have much time to dodge or counter, and Metkai was nearby. Mu Yue gathered chakra and formed hand seals. Water release. Water formation wall. A thick wall of water rose, blocking the fireball. Seizing the moment, Metkai pushed his breathing technique to full and lunged. Just before he could grab the bell, he realized his arm wouldn't move. He looked up and saw Mu Yue's hand already clamped around his wrist. That reaction speed! Metkai was astonished. Trap, fire jutsu, and a surprise attack had all occurred almost simultaneously, and Mu Yue had countered smoothly. He threw Metkai, who slammed into a tree. Obito fired another fire jutsu to cover Metkai's fall. This time the full Phoenix Flower of Claw Crimson, sending many shuriken-like balls of flame. Mu Yue quietly switched from rock breathing to lightning breathing and vanished from sight. Where did he go? Obito looked around, panicking. He cursed his lack of a Sharingan. If he'd seen Mu Yue's movement, he might have followed it. Then a gust of wind struck from behind, and Obito was hurled into a tree next to Metkai. Metkai staggered up and charged again, only to be thrown back into the tree with even greater force. The impact shook the trunk. Obito, dazed, chose to sit down. Snatching the bells alone looked hopeless. Recuperating chakra seemed wiser. Mu Yue, after dealing with them, began searching for Kakashi. Kakashi, hidden in the shadows, had read Mu Yue's movements and waited for him to walk through his traps. When Mu Yue stepped into range, a storm of shuriken flew out. The barrage forced Mu Yue to back away, and Kakashi seized the moment, springing forward with a short blade drawn from his back. Mu Yue reacted fast. He pulled a kunai to block and parried several precise slashes that aimed for his vital points, inching him backward. Kakashi detonated the explosive tags he'd planted. Mu Yue sensed danger and sidestepped. The tags detonated in a fiery bloom, scorching a 5-meter radius of earth. Kakashi lunged for the bells. The trap is clever, but one person isn't enough, Mu Yue catching Kakashi's hand. Kakashi had barely registered Mu Yue's speed himself. When Mu Yue reacted, Kakashi's admiration turned to shock. Why didn't the three of you attack together? It would have been easier. Because I thought one person would be enough, Kakashi replied. Then your idea was wrong, Mu Yue said with a faint smile, and slammed Kakashi into a nearby tree. There was a puff, and the Kakashi who had been struck burst into white smoke and vanished. But Kushaki's real body, the one that had been hiding all along, saw a slit in Mu Yue's stance and moved. It drew the white fanged short sword and slashed cleanly toward the bells at Mu Yue's waist. Indeed, one person was enough.